Hello, welcome everyone to episode 14 of the podcast. This episode is going to be aimed at new DDO players. The aim here is to help you all get started. We're probably going to be a lot more basic in terms of our language and not trying not to use abbreviations and other things that that vets use. We're going to try to just really focus this one on new players to help them out. I figured with the server merges coming soon, server transfers, I guess I should say, with the 64-bit servers, this would be a good time to do this. So for anyone who hasn't listened to this podcast before, you can find this on YouTube, on Axel's DDO channel, or on Spotify. I think we'll just go around the table and have everyone give a short intro for themselves. Albar, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Albar, known as Albar DDO. I've got a YouTube channel, Albar DDO, and a Twitch channel, Albar DDO. I primarily make YouTube videos, but I also do some streaming, and I joined DDO back like 2009 and been on and off since then. So I'm very happy to be on the podcast. Thank you, Axel.
Yeah. Druid's Fire.
I'm Druidspire. I am sick right now. I apologize if I just randomly look like I'm coughing and you can't hear it because push to talk. Thank you, the lovely person who brought their sickness to the meetup last week at PAX. I do have a YouTube channel, Druidspire, youtube.com/Druidspire, and on Twitch. I'm also a member of the DDO stream team because Cordovan is weird and lets me stream on the company channel on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, whatever time. I have been playing DDO regularly, since about Ravenloft, though my account does go back further than that. I just didn't really play it. Looking forward to the 64-bit servers. And yeah, I probably might have a little bit more insight on this topic than many because I still play like I'm a new player. So good times.
Okay, Doug.
My name is Doug Lendauer, and I too have a YouTube channel, which really I'm trying to invest more time in since after my move. I do have a couple of the time-lapse videos, one of which is running behind me. I also am a long-term streamer on the DDO stream. Actually, I do believe, other than Cordovan, I am the longest tenured DDO streamer. And I also now stream regularly Tuesday through Friday on my own Twitch channel from 10 a.m. Pacific to whenever I decide to quit. I'm looking forward to this topic because I am probably the streamer who is the worst DDO player online.
Okay, Nomad.
Aloha everyone, Nomad Dog. I started playing shortly after the game went free to play in 2009. I stream 2 nights a week, Wednesdays and Friday nights on twitch.tv/nomaddog, starting at 6:30 p.m. Hawaii time, 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 a.m. Eastern. I also stream on DDO Stream on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And we've been taking a look at the game since we were taking a look at the update since the game went free to play in 2009. That's what we've been doing for the last year and a half or so. But I am also looking forward to this topic because I think, especially with the 64-bit servers coming out, we might see an influx of new folks and they might need some help because this game is older and complex and people can always use some help.
So let's start with the very beginning. The first thing you will do as a new player, which is download the game. So there's 2 places you can download it really well. 2 that I see is Steam or downloading it direct from DDO.com. What do you all think about Steam versus DDO.com? I've heard there are a variety of differences and kind of issues you can have with running it through Steam. So personally, I would recommend you download it directly from the website. What do you all think? Have any of you all actually downloaded and played DDO through Steam? No, none of you? Okay. Well, I know that can have certain complications. So for any new players starting out, just go to DDO.com, just download it direct to your desktop. There's no reason to have to run it through Steam. I know you might be used to using Steam, as your primary gateway to get into all your PC games, but really DDO works better from my experience from just downloading it directly off of DDO.com. Okay, right when you start DDO, your first big choice is what server do you choose, and this kind of ties into why this episode's existing in the first place, because we're having new 64-bit servers that, as of the time we're recording this, which is May of 2025, that are going to be opening probably in the next few months for people to transfer to. So when it comes to server choice, my recommendation is you pick one of the 64-bit servers, Cormier, or whatever the newer ones are going to be called. Do you all have anything to add regarding server choice?
I would definitely recommend Cormier, simply for a couple of different reasons. One, it is 64-bit, so it's the new hotness. You're going to get the better performance out of it. And the second thing is, because it's such a new server, it started as a fresh start server, you're going to find better options for names. It is almost impossible to find a really cool name on one of the legacy servers.
Yeah,
I think if you're starting with a fresh start and you don't have anything prior, you should just go straight to Cormier and start there. If you happen to be joining like a group, or I don't know, family members or some friends in real life, so then you should join that server, because eventually they should open up transfers and you can move over. But your first steps in DDO, you really need somebody to hold your hand if you want to have a good amount of fun pretty fast. I mean, you should really join up with a group rather than just try to do it yourself. So if you have somebody you know, join them. If not, go to Cormier.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because the way DDO works for anyone coming from a different game is when you pick your server, you're kind of stuck on that server. You can't easily hop from server to server. You can pay to transfer, but there's limitations. We'll see what happens with the 64-bit transfers coming up. But how DDO has worked historically is there's not server-wide LFM or multi-server-wide LFMs or anything like that. You can't just easily hop. So you need to make sure that you choose the server that fits you. And the second thing that I would point out is that there are servers located in different areas of the world, especially with the 64-bit servers coming up. So if you're in Europe, probably want to jump on the 64-bit server that's going to be located in Europe. If you're in America, probably want to pick one of the servers that's located in Las Vegas. Wish I had more details on that, but if you're listening a few months from when this comes out, those details will probably exist. But as of right now, we don't know the actual names or number of servers quite yet. But that's a big thing to factor into.
Just to note that right now Cormier is listed as the default server, so that will be the one that it will kind of direct you to when you are going. That may change once the 64-bit servers come out. They may change the default server, but currently if you decide to join a server, that's going to be up at the top, and they'll be the one that they'll kind of recommend you to go to.
Yeah, so going to the default server is never a bad choice. Usually, especially now, it tends to be the most populated for obvious reasons with new players, because it's the one recommended, and most people are not gonna. They're just gonna pick the default. Most people that sign up who don't really have any outside knowledge of the game. Anything else you guys want to say on server choice? Not really too much to say, because there's just so much information we don't have quite yet on that. But so we can't really go into what servers, like of the current old 32-bit servers. We can't really go too much into that, because that's going to be outdated information here really soon. So the next thing, unless someone had something else to add, I want to get into when you start this game, should you start as free to play or should you pay, whether that's premium or just going VIP? What do you all think is the best for a new player? And I'll let you all talk first.
For free.
Yeah.
I think that there's so much that the game offers for free. There's no reason why you should start paying right away. Start for free, and if you really like it and fall in love with it, yeah, sure, pay for it. Why not? I mean, why you shouldn't? It's just like paying for any other kind of entertainment. But yeah, if you're not sure, or even if you are sure, still just give it a try at the beginning. Play it for free. All the low-level content that you need to progress a little bit is all there. So you don't need to pay in order to enjoy the game. There's plenty of classes and races all for free, and plenty of quests for free. Just like step in, get a feel for it, and then you can see if you want to go for more.
The one thing I would change to that is I would recommend that when you sign up, you buy the very smallest pack of DDO points, because what that will do is put you into premium status, and that will get rid of some of the most annoying little boggles that are going to affect a new player and may drive them away, like plat cap limit and whatnot. just a little $6 investment will be just so worth your time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Normally be like, yeah, just try it completely free to play, see what you like. If you're thinking that yes, this is a game I want to try out for sure, um, the smallest amount of points will kick you on over. But one thing that it'll do for you is get you a couple extra character slots. I'm looking this up on the wiki as, whatever. And it does make it easier for you to get around a little bit. And you
Yeah,
get a little bit of
definitely
more
should be your
access.
first purchase. If you decide you're gonna buy something, definitely that'll be the first purchase. A few bucks and get premium, and then you can decide later if you want even more expensive things.
Yeah, I agree with everyone. I think you start off free to play. I know I started off free to play, and then you kind of hit a point in the game where you're going to need to have something more. Um, the other thing that I always let new players know is if you can afford VIP, right? Because not everyone has the disposable income to be able to do that, right? And so getting the cheapest point thing is a great way to get around the premium, or to get to premium, to get around all those annoying things at the beginning. But yeah, I start free to play, see if you like it. If you do like it, you could choose to go VIP. But again, comes down to do you have the funds to be able to do it, right? Don't put yourself in a difficult financial situation.
And I guess I should define these different things for brand new players who are listening. So there's three. So you can play this game DDO free to play, or premium if you spend any amount of money in the DDO store. By any store pack, you get upgraded to premium status. And I believe the main perks to that is your plat cap gets raised. That's the most amount of in-game money you can carry. And I believe you get a few extra character slots. There's probably some other perks I'm not thinking of, but those are the main ones that I can think of. And then VIP, you can pay $15 a month or pay about $100 a year and get access to VIP, which gives you access to a bunch of different races and classes and all the adventure packs, all the non-expansion content in the game. It opens that up for you. There's the VIP loyalty rewards where you get every month you get a special little prize. There's different bonus perks on weekends for VIPs. Sometimes there's VIP discounts on expansions and things. So there's a bunch of other VIP related things. But I would say personally, I think you should just start out free to play because there's a lot of content in DDO you can legitimately play through. I would say at least half the game with really struggling with repeating too much. You even starting level 3 and 4, you will have to repeat some content if you're stuck on normal difficulty, but you have plenty of content generally, I would say, until you get to level 15 or 16. If you just want to try out the game, don't feel rushed like you gotta pay for it right now. As free to play, you will have some limitations. Obviously, DDO's a business; they have to make money, so they're gonna have limitations as a free to play player. But there's enough there, and I think DDO is really generous in the amount of quests it does offer for free. And they're still to this day releasing a lot of new free to play quests. I mean, they just a few weeks ago just released another free to play quest. So there's actually quite a bit more free content now than when I started the game. I mean, there's way more free to play content than when I started the game back in 15 years ago. So that's my opinion. Just give it a shot, and if you really like it, you can upgrade to VIP later, or you can go along the free to play route where you can slowly earn everything in game just by playing if you want to. Obviously, that'll take a long time, but I know players who have legitimately who are still free to play, who've never spent a dime on this game, who own everything. So that is an option if you like the game and you would rather pay with your time versus your money. Okay, anything else you guys want to add for free to play versus VIP?
Oh, that is a good point, Axel. As a player, you do earn DDO points from doing quests and earning favor from the different patrons. And so as you earn that, you get the points that you could spend in the DDO store. And as you collect them over time, you can put them towards shared bank, or you could put them towards an adventure pack. So you do get it, but it is slow. It is grindy. And so there is a way to expand what you have access to, even as free to play. But it does take time. And like Axel said, it's the time versus money aspect.
Okay, well, I guess we'll move on to the next topic here, which is going to be what classes and builds should beginners play or avoid? What are your all's thoughts on that? Sorry, my display got a little messed up here. Fixing it. Okay.
Well, the thing about DDO is it has a far more complex set of options for character creation than many other MMOs. Even Standing Stone's other game, Lord of the Rings Online, it's way more cookie cutter than DDO has. The game does tell you in character generation whether a class is good, very good, challenging, whatever, in terms of solo ability. And of course, if you're running with a group, solo ability isn't quite as important. Just whether you can, mesh well with your group. And whether that's a pickup group or whether that's a static group that you're going to run with all the time, where you can, fit into whatever gaps are in your group's makeup. Um, in general terms, um, somebody who is already familiar with the pen and paper game is going to have a little bit of a leg up, but not necessarily, because DDO isn't meshing, isn't like 3.5, it isn't 5e, it is kind of its own little homebrew, rather large homebrew. Um, some the classes that the care gen typically tells you are easier to solo, those are going to be the ones you want to start with. Paladin's always a good choice. The main thing is, as a brand new player, if there's like a class you love to play in pen and paper and you want to see how DDO does it, play that. Starting out, and this is a piece of advice that you don't often hear, but the game has a normal mode, and you're okay with playing that on your own while you're testing the waters before you jump into the harder difficulties. And I'm sure we'll get into
Yeah,
that.
and I
It's on
guess
Axel's topic.
I should jump in and point out that if you're free to play, you will be restricted to only normal difficulty unless you group with someone else who can open a higher difficulty. That means being a reincarnated character or there someone being VIP.
Well, once you complete something on a normal, you can then rerun it on hard.
Yes,
And after
that
that,
too.
you can then rerun it on elite. So a lot of new players will do exactly that. They'll play it on normal, complete the quest. Now they can unlock it on hard, run it, and then they'll do it on elite. But it's actually good that it kind of gates you on the fact that if you're a new player and you don't know what you're doing, running an elite, you'll probably get wiped. So, yeah, starting normal is good.
Yeah,
And I
normal.
try to tell this to players a lot. Just stick to normal or hard, and people, I don't know why they insist they want to try to run elite on their first life
Um,
character without knowing the game.
I think part of that is the community. Um, I think a lot of veteran players are so excited to have new players playing. They really want to get these players really into the higher difficulties and the harder content. And it's like, no, slow down. Oh, let them take their time. Don't zerg this stuff. Because honestly, if I one of the things that I personally don't like when I'm grouping with people is if I'm needing to run something and I want to do my flower sniffing and like check all the corners to see, look for all the traps, look out for all the optionals. I don't need people who are already done with the quest. And that's something that you can do when you're talking to people. Say, hey, I'm new. I just want to learn how to do this quest. I need to take my time. And the community is generally really good about that. But in terms of onboarding new players, the community is less good about letting new players find their own path, and to find a basically learn by starting on normal and then progressing and then progressing. And instead, they just want to get people on elite right now. And I don't think that's a good way to start a brand new player who's never played DDO before.
It really
Because of that,
Yeah, go ahead.
I won't even join a group unless I've done it solo before, at least on normal. If I haven't seen it myself and had the opportunity to check everything out without being rushed, I won't even join a group because I don't want to have to chase somebody's dust the entire quest just to get to the end and loot a chest when he's already on to the next quest. It's like, no. So I take my time, do the quest by myself, and then if I've already seen the quest, then I'll join a group to make it go faster or to get more people to help you to pull loot. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
go ahead, Duck.
I think the big thing that in the community needs to realize is that the faster you want them to get to elite, the patience has to be on your end. So if you want them to be able to run elite, you have to invest the time into not only showing them how to play the game, but maybe helping them farm the gear they'll need. That they'll need to be successful inside the game. Too many times I see people just open up LFMs and then run the content and loot the chests and move on to the other ones without really taking the time. Now, on the other side of this question is what class do you play? And this is where the patience needs to be on the new player, because I say it doesn't matter. Your first couple of characters, you're going to have to not get too attached to them, and you are going to have to not be afraid to make mistakes and potentially re-roll. If you do choose my option and buying a little bit of DDO up points up front to get to premium, one of the best things you can buy is veteran status 1 or 2. That way your original characters you can take all the way to 7 after you've played a little and catch up once again after you've figured out what's going on.
Yeah, for me, I guess in terms of joining groups, and I have this listed later, but you probably do want to start out solo as a new player. The thing with DDO, it is very, very vet heavy. So if you try to group, you're probably going to run into people that have done these quests, hundreds of times, and they're going to be running through fast. And their main goal is to level as quickly as possible, generally. So, and they've done the quest so many times that they know them like the back of their hand. So they're probably going to be playing the game at a speed that doesn't match the speed you're capable of playing it as a new player, and that's fine. But it's probably best to either solo or find a group. Really, I think the best is if you can find a group of other people, maybe in real life friends who've never played this game before and play together. That's probably the best experience. But if not, just maybe start solo. I would say start solo at least for a while to kind of learn the game before you jump in and play with other players, unless you meet a guild or someone else who's really willing to kind of go at your speed. Because it's not really the community's fault. It's just they're so vet heavy, and it's unless it's strictly pointed out to them that, hey, I'm a new player, will you show me the ropes? They're gonna assume whenever you join the group that you're also a vet, so they're just gonna play really fast. Yeah, go ahead.
So one thing to note is on a brand new account, as a brand new player, once you roll up your character, you're going to start on the snowy side of Korthos. And because the game is so vet heavy, most vets never start on the snowy side, right? So that gives you an opportunity. If you want to run solo, chances are you might not find a group for snowy side Korthos, right? So you can run through the Korthos content. It's simple, straightforward, and it's a decent onboarding for a new player to kind of get a grip on how the mechanics of the game works, see some different types of puzzles and things like that. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of get your feet wet before you jump into groups, just typically speaking.
So jumping back to classes and builds, what build should you play? The reason I wanted to bring this up at the beginning, because this is, from my experience, easily the biggest question that new players ask. So my opinion is always, number one, play whatever you're interested in, because every class can work. But if you're like a lot of players where you don't really have a clear favorite, then I would have some classes I would point you towards. I think two-handed fighting paladin or barbarian, very good new player options. I think if you want to play a caster, then I would say cleric, offensive caster, fire domain, light domain, really good choices. But no matter what build you choose, I would say you need to keep a couple things in mind. Number one, don't use the pre-made paths. So there are pre-made path options right when you start a character, and they will work for normal difficulty, but the thing is, those pre-made paths, and that's when you select your character. If you're in the character creation, you'll have 3 options, and then you'll have customize. You always want to pick customize, because the pre-made paths they're not kept up to date. They're very weak compared to a more modernized, up to date build. So don't pick those. The other thing I would say is, let's see. I guess in terms of classes to avoid, maybe not rogue, maybe not alchemist because it's a little bit more difficult of a class to play from my experience. Do you guys have any other like preferences or opinions on classes you would like to see new players just play or avoid maybe? Assuming they, don't have one clear class in mind they're interested in.
I would say for melee, just have a two-handed fighter barbarian, with like a falchion. And if you want to go for casting, you'd have a light cleric as a caster, or if you want a ranged build, I would say dark hunter, and go dexterity as a bow player. And that's your three. Like, if you're starting out, you have no clue where to start. Though, like pick one of those three, and each one of those is you can make a solid character out of it. They all have some kind of healing, and they're good offense, good defense. They're pretty straightforward.
Oh, one thing I want to jump in and say, I meant to say it, then I forgot. But make sure whatever character you play, the way DDO works is everyone needs to be every character should be able to do some kind of damage. DDO is not really a game that has the trinity where you have you play a character that's only a tank or only a healer. Generally for level 1 when you start out, now there are certain roles for that in game for rating and such, but for generally at level 1, you want to make sure your character is capable of killing things no matter what class you pick. I see some new players jump in and say, "Oh, I'm going to play a healer," but it's like, okay, you can build a character that can be a healer, but also have some DPS as well. Unless we're looking in the situation of a specialized in-game rating character, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about characters at level 1. Anything else you guys want to add in terms of classes?
Yeah, avoid making your first character a support class. You can solo a support class if you know what you're doing, but if you don't know what you're doing, support class really needs the rest of the group and it to be the support. And if you're trying to solo with it and you didn't make your build proper, you're gonna suffer the whole time. So try like you just said, a healer. So don't make a pure healer build as your first character, unless you're running with a static group. It means you've got five other members run with you every time you play, and all your job is to do is just to heal them. But if you're trying to go out on your own and solo, try to make a more balanced character who can do damage, who has good offense and good defense, not just don't make your first character a support bard who just buffs everybody through the roof. But if you don't have any other players in your party, you're kind of useless.
Yeah.
I mean, all these, you can make anything work, but when you're starting off and you don't know enough about the game mechanics, you're setting yourself up for failure. If you take something with a pretty steep learning curve, you're going to get in trouble.
Yep. Just make sure your character should always be able to do damage and then do other things as well, but shouldn't only be a buffer or only be a healer when we're talking a level 1 character. Not, again, just to clarify, this is not applicable to like level cap rating characters. We're talking like level 1 characters.
And don't forget to get your hireling.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that for sure. It's on my list here. Okay, so next thing I want to get to is where to find a build. So let's say you're creating a character. You do the smart thing. You don't use a pre-made path. You click customize. Then what's next? Where do you go from there? So the next question is, where can you find a build to get started? I think this is so important for new players. They need to have a build that makes sense and be able to have some kind of guide to what feats you're taking. So there need to be some kind of plan for your character. I think that if you just create a character and you just don't plan anything, you just pick feats on a whim, you're going to end up perhaps frustrated. I mean, maybe if you just stick to normal, it'll be fine, but you should have some kind of plan. And there's a variety of resources. I think the first one I would say, the main one is go to DDO.com. There's class forums. You can find a separate forum for every single class. So you go to the class forum of the class you want to play. Say you want to play cleric. Go to the cleric forum. You look for builds in there. There's going to be a bunch listed in there. If you can't find one that fits you, create a post, create a DDO.com forum account. Say, hey, I'm a new player. This is what I want to do. Can you recommend a build? I guarantee you there's going to be players that jump in and recommend a build to you. Or you can post on Reddit, or you can go to Discord. The DDO.com or the DDO official Discord is really good. You can go to my Discord. It'll be linked below in the link tree. There's a lot of community options to find a build when you're starting out. Do you guys have anything you want to add as far as options? Oh yeah, there's also YouTube. Tons of different builds on YouTube. Lots of different creators. Trim Tom, myself, Voodoo have made some. Aldbar has made a bunch. Lots of builds on YouTube you can check out.
One of the things about builds is you do want to make sure the build is for a first life character. Because one thing about DDO is, we've touched on a little bit, is that you don't just play through the game once on your character and you're done. Once you get to level cap or a specific milestone, you can then use various mechanics to reincarnate your character and get what's called a past life. So some of the builds you want to be careful about is that they are built for characters that have plenty of past lives or have had additional things from the store added to them, such as stat tomes, like the +8 Supreme Ability tome. So you want to make sure that the build you're using is one that's geared for a first life character. Because one of the other things is once you've reincarnated your character, you get more build points to use to make your character. And one thing that I've noticed is even in Strim Tom's beginner videos, his first life character videos, is he sometimes forgets that you don't have 32 points to start your build. You start with, 28 or whatever. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind when you're looking at it. It's like, oh, this build looks really cool. Only this person has 40 different past lives. They've got the +8 tome of supreme ability on their character. They got X, Y, and Z bought from the store. Or they may have classes that you need to purchase in some fashion, like you don't have Favor Solar or whatever. So you want to be very careful about that when you're picking a build or looking up a build. So just make sure that it's geared for a first life character.
Yeah, and oftentimes the creator will say first life friendly, something to that effect in the description. I know I've got some on my YouTube channel. I've got a bunch of free to play builds, first life friendly. So they're not too hard to find, but there are some differences between first life. You don't have all this past lives. You're going to have 28 or 32 build points versus having 34 or 36. Let's see. So I think those are the main references. The other thing I want to point out is a really good resource is Matrim. So shout out to Matrim. He's been on this podcast before. He has a character planner called Matrim's Character Planner, which is really nice. You can plan out your whole character before you actually build it in the game. So if you're looking to just do some brainstorming regarding your character, that's the number one tool I'd recommend. It's free. You can go download it. If I remember, I'll put a link below in the description to the character planner if you want to check that out. Okay, so next thing I have listed here is, and we kind of went into it already, but what do you all think regarding soloing versus grouping when starting out?
I love it. I'm just gonna be straight up, mainly because I play most of my MMOs as a solo player anyway. I like to figure things out for myself, and grouping with, like, if I were running with, like, there were 3 of us running together and none of us knew the game, we're all on the same level, that's fine. We're all figuring things out on the same level. But I personally find that when I'm running with people who know way the heck more than I know, they're going to forget the things that I need to know. They don't even think about it. It's just like it's like breathing, because they don't think about it until they actually focus on it. It's like, oh. So in terms of trying to figure out how something works, like how does trapping work? How does, using the right kind of weapon for the right kind of mob work? I mean, the Cortho starting experience actually gives you a little bit of that. But in general terms, I kind of like to sort it out on my own a little bit so that I'm not holding a group up and I'm not embarrassing myself in front of said group.
Yeah, so grouping is going to be faster in terms of just leveling, but you may not have fun because, especially if you're a new player, you're not going to know the quests. You're going to be kind of just following these other players and trying to keep up with them rather than actually experiencing the content. So I would say, and as I said before, as a new player, I would say either solo or find a group of other people to play the game with you who also have never played DDO before. I think that's definitely your best bet.
Even if you do group up with experienced people, you do go through a quest, you get run through it, and you don't get the full experience. Don't be afraid to go back, and especially if you cleared it on Elite now, you've gotten your XP for it. Go back in normal and just explore the heck out of all of these dungeons. Learn it yourself. It's not, no one, either or is going to be fine for you, whether you're grouping or you're solo. but don't forget to go back. If you do get rushed through a quest and you want to experience more, go back in on your own. Even if you go in on normal, even if you go in on casual, just to explore some of these great environments. That's what I tell. Especially, my biggest problem is I have an amazing memory. So once I run a quest, I don't forget it. But a lot of the people I run with don't, and I keep telling them, it's like, you can't just rely on me. Go back in, explore the dungeon on your own. It's not, no one's going to criticize you, and nothing is going to get permanently hurt with your character.
The other thing I want to point out is, as a first life character, you actually only have half the amount of XP that's required for you to level up, as compared to a third life in later character. And actually, it's a little different now because they changed the XP curve. But for most veteran characters, they're going to have actually double, about 3.8 million, I believe it is, versus 1.9. I think it is. So don't be too concerned about XP. There's so many quests in the game. You'll get enough XP to progress. I will say, as a free to play player, you're gonna, I actually recently started a free to play account, only free to play, using like nothing else but what I find, and I was a bit surprised that I did have to start repeating even like levels 3, 4, 5 when stuck to normal, but there's still enough quests that you shouldn't feel like too rushed. If you just repeat a few quests, lower levels should be fine. And if you are opening on Elite, if you have VIP and you can start stuff on hard or whatever, then you're not going to have to repeat very much at all, at least not in lower levels.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
Well, to add on to that really quick is that once you kind of have your character and you're on a free to play account, you've kind of got yourself in the swing of things that you can, uh, you're familiar with the game. You've gotten a little bit familiar with the game, and you feel a little bit more confident in it. What you can do is that as you're leveling up, you're doing like normal. But if you're trying to also farm the DDO points for things that you want, once you get over leveled, nothing's stopping you from going back into those quests on hard or on elite. So when you repeat, you can kind of do a little system as you farm DDO points that you're also going up and repeating the quests once again on hard and elite, and then you're gaining more experience and more familiarity with the quests. At the same time, you're building up your cache of DDO points.
Yeah. So for me, especially since I started doing my stream on Sundays and I run those quests solo and do full run throughs of the dungeons, even though I've been playing for 15 years, I still find things that I didn't know were in the game, right? Because you get into a quest, you run through it beginning to end, you're on that TR hamster wheel, and taking the time to explore learning about some of the lore and story to DDO is really interesting. It's not just the quests, but I think that DDO has good stories that never get fully explored. And taking the time to kind of immerse yourself just in the game itself can give you a little bit richer experience rather than just sprinting from one end to the other.
Okay, so as a new player, there's a lot of things in the game that are important to know about. So I wanted to go over just some of the basic things that as a new player you need to be aware of and need to use. So I guess the first thing is general vendors. These are located in lots of different public areas. These are just your general vendors. When you get loot and quests, you're gonna take that junk loot and you're going to sell most of it. Some of it you'll use, but most of it you're going to sell to a general vendor. And this is in general how you make plat in the game. I mean, you can trade with other players, but most of your plat making is going to be by going to a general vendor and selling what you find in chests. The next thing I want to point out is bankers. So the first one, there's not one in Korthos, but when you get through with Korthos as a new player and you get to the harbor, you're going to find a banker, which is your in-game storage. So he's going to be right there in the harbor, and there's one located in most public areas, not all, but most major public areas in the game. So be aware that that's a place you can store your stuff. And there's also there's quest lines like House Kunderact, Favor, for example, where you can unlock more bank space. And hireling vendors, that's a very important one I want to start out with. But as a new player, right when you get on out of the grotto, the tutorial quest, and into Korthos, there's going to be a hireling vendor right there. And most players are probably going to want to have a cleric hireling with them as they play, because it'll help heal you. It really, this game, it can be so helpful as a new player to have a cleric hireling, or even just a veteran player. Later on, when you get higher in levels, you can get better hirelings. They can raise you if you die. You can use them to pull levers. If you're on a class like, say, barbarian or fighter or rogue who doesn't have a lot of self-healing built into the class, it's so helpful to have a cleric hireling follow you, or favorite soul hireling. But clerics are generally better from my experience, because favorite souls are a lot more often focused on offensive casting. But in any case, that's a really, really important one to know. And these things cost very little, very small amounts of in-game money. The next couple things I want to point out is auctioneers. They look like well, you'll see a few of them. There's one in the harbor, one in the market. They're in most public areas, but there's a auction house in game where players can post gear they find, and you can also just buy it outright, or you can bid on it. Pretty cool. Guild ship portals. So we'll get into guilds here in just a minute. Mailboxes. There's an in-game mail system. Patron NPCs. So oftentimes there'll be a little star icon on the map, and once you complete certain quests and get enough favor, so you get favor for completing quests. When you get enough favor, you can get little goodies or little rewards. So there's patrons you can talk to claim those rewards. There's also special component vendors is the last thing I have listed here, where if you're a caster, you'll need to buy spell components to keep in your inventory to cast your spells. Is there anything else you guys want to point out in terms of like important NPCs that new players should be aware of?
I want to hit on the patron vendors real quick. As you get your favor, make sure you go and you talk to all of the different patron vendors. The rewards that you get for the favor are better now than they were when I first started playing. Usually they'll give you the first tier would be like bonuses to a skill, and the second tier would be like an additional 5 hit points. And it might not seem like a lot, but 5 hit points can make a difference, especially as you go through the different vendors and continue to get the 5 hit points from the different patron vendors. It'll make a difference in the long run. So make sure that when you get that mail that says, you've earned this, go talk to that one to get those bonuses, because they do help out.
I was going to mention there's also potion vendors in the marketplace and other places what they have higher level potions. You can get some very good healing potions if you have the platinum for it. And one of the ways you can make platinum is any junk loot you find, you can sell it to a vendor. He starts off by giving you 10% of your base of the value of the item. And there are these brokers who give you, instead of 10%, an extra 10%. They give you 20%. They start off 20% of the base of the value of the item. And there's a skill called haggle in the game, and the more of it you have, every point will give you another 0.5%. So you can, if you have a little bit of haggle and you make sure you take the time to go to the brokers and sell the items to the brokers, you'll get an extra percentage on everything you're selling, and you'll get platinum faster, and it'll allow you to buy things easier. You can buy the more expensive potions faster and stuff like that. So a little bit more time, try to find the different brokers and stuff, or maybe increase your haggle a bit, and you'll be able to collect platinum faster as a new player and get yourself started.
Wartusk in chat mentioned augment vendors. Yeah, that's true. There's some collectibles you get and such you can turn in for augments as well. But as a new player, I didn't mention that because augments are, it's more of a little bit more of an advanced thing. You're not going to have a lot of augmentable gear as a new player, likely. I mean, you might get a piece or two, but it's not really a big, that kind of gearing is not really a concern as a new player. Bartender. Oh yeah. There's also, I forgot to mention, the bars or taverns in game. So each tavern in DDO has a spirit binder. You can bind your spirit to it. That means if you die in a quest you need to recall, you'll recall to that location. Really helpful. Like if you get to, say, House Jarasco, you might bind your spirit there so that when you die, if you die in a House Jarasco quest, you don't get booted all the way back to Korthos and have to run all the way through there to get to your quest again. So that's a good one to point out. Also, the taverns in game is where you go to if you do die. You can regen your spell points and your hit points and such faster in a tavern, as well as your uses on your clickies or any active items.
Yeah, if you're a new player and you're free to play, and you're not sure where to bind it, you want one place that will be closest to everything. And let's assume you don't have a guild ship, so you'll bind yourself in House Cannith at the bottom. And then if you walk up one flight of stairs, you'll be next to the Stormreach teleporter. That'll send you back to the most amount of locations. And if you do happen to have a ship, but you can't bind yourself on the ship, so you bind yourself on the 12. And that way you're right next to ship portal. So those are like the two options. Everybody else who has a ship and can bind themselves on the ship does that, because that way you're back to the quest the fastest.
Yeah,
Ultimately, that's the goal, to be back to where you were when you died as fast as possible. If less than 5 minutes pass and you're solo on a quest, you can return into the quest, assuming it's not Reaper. Whatever. There's more stuff about this. But
One
that's the point.
thing I would like to step back a little bit is the fact that nobody has it. Nobody who is like a brand new player has absolutely no idea what you're talking about when you're saying House Canis or House Fiarlet or House Jarasco. I
True,
think
true.
maybe a little bit of reminder that Quarthos is the initial starting island available to everybody. It has a snowy side that's only available to folks who haven't completed the story. And then once you've completed a bit of the story, you go to the sunny side where you can meet up with everybody else and then take a journey to Stormreach, which is your initial starting capital where all the stuff is. And it's got different houses. It's got the marketplace where a lot of stuff is. There's, you got taverns there. You've got the bank there. You've got the various houses, the big dragon houses or whatever. Um, but I think a lot of times we get ahead of ourselves
yeah. Well,
when we're
maybe
talking to new players.
maybe I
So
should jump in and sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I just was gonna say maybe I should jump in and just give like a general overview of the world
yeah,
and where you would start. So as a new player, you're gonna start on Korthos. Well, really, you start on the first tutorial quest, the Grotto. Once you get through that tutorial quest, you're going to be in Korthos, which is the first main area. After you complete the quest in Korthos, and this is sticking to free-to-play content only, so we're not going to go into Borderlands and all that. But as a new player, you'll complete Korthos. After you get done with Korthos, you're going to head out to Stormreach Harbor, and that is the second main area in the game. Okay, there's a lot of quests you can run there that are at your low levels, like level 2, 3, 4, I think 5. You can run there. So from there, you're going to move on to the market, which is right next to the harbor. And once you get into the market, lots more quests there that are free to play. And then the game spreads out a little bit more. So there's all different sections around the market. There's the different houses. So you have House Jarasco, House Cannith, House Valarian, and these all branch out from the marketplace. And that's when the game really opens up. You have the 12. You've got a lot of other areas of the game, but that's generally, just to make it simple for new players, that's the starting path for you. Korthos to the harbor to the marketplace, and then you can kind of spread out and go most anywhere else in the overworld.
Yeah, you can think of the marketplace as like the center of the map, and all the other areas are connected to it. And when you come through the harbor, who's connected to the marketplace. And then once you get to the marketplace, that's like the center hub. And you can either walk through the marketplace to get to all the different locations, or there's actually a teleporter will allow you can just click on it and it'll send you to the different houses or the different locations. And that's so you move around. So you don't have to keep on walking the whole way everywhere you want to go. But yeah, treat the marketplace as the center and all the houses are around it, with the harbor being one of the sides.
yeah, the marketplace is like the hub of a wheel, and then everything else kind of branches off like spokes. Um, One of the things that I do whenever I create a new character is I go looking for my first three bags. So I tend to skip Porthos on on a brand new character. I don't recommend this to any brand new people because once you're past, like, let's say you're on your third or fourth character, you've done Porthos, been there, done that. You go to the harbor and you're going to get directed to talk to Badri Cardamon. He's going to give you a bag. And you go up a little bit further on the path, you'll find Fitzpat Defense. He'll give you another bag. And then you go a little bit further up toward the door to the marketplace. You'll talk to this fabricator dude. He'll give you another bag. Bags are awesome, and you can get these for free. You can get upgrades in other places, but when you're first starting out, those 6 slot, 12 slot bags are a godsend in terms of your in storage.
Yeah, and they've done a better job there of once you pop out of Korthos, there's NPCs that direct you more over to Baudry and get you going on the right path. But Baudry is really the first person you're going to go to after you get out of Korthos. But yeah, definitely claim those bags. Storage bags are really important. And later on in the game, when you get a little more platinum, from either House Valarian or House Tarasco, you can get some medium bags that give you even more storage. Go ahead, Doug.
This goes back to what I said about the quest. But when you're a new player, there's very little inside of Stormreach once you get out of Snowingside Korthos that's blocked off to you. Just take some time and explore the various houses. You're not going to be able to get into the Inspired Quarter, although there's ways. But you're able to go straight from the harbor now, unlike when we started, into the marketplace, and then into all the spokes of the wheel and maybe a little beyond. Take some time to explore the world around you before you start taking the deep dive in all those quests. You'll be well rewarded with a little bit of my favorite topic, geography.
And once you're into the harbor, you can pop over to Cerulean Hills. That's low level content. That's a good place to just run around and just look for pick up quests, pick up rares, and just do some Slayer deeds.
A really good resource is the DDO Wiki, which we'll get into resources later, but ddowiki.com. You can just go there and there's a section for free to play quests, or you can just go to Google and just type in Google DDO free to play quests, and there's a whole list. If you're not sure where to go or where to find a quest, there's a whole list there, and you can sort by level type. You can also go in game if you hit the P key, P as in Paul. You can go to the Adventure Compendium where you can sort quests by levels. So if you ever are unsure of where you can go next, what quests are available, those are the ways you can find that. And there's details there regarding who the NPC is, and you can use your map to find it. There's a lot of resources like that. I also did on my YouTube channel. There's also a series I did just on that free to play account, and that might be a resource you could use. You could follow the same path I use, which is going to be all free to play quests. So that's another good resource. Well, I thought we would go next into, since I think Albor brought it up, let's talk about guilds and the importance of joining a guild and if you should. So guilds are not just, they are a social hub in DDO, but they also have a lot of practical uses. The two main ones being transportation, just to get around. If you are not in a guild, you cannot use the guild airship portals. And the first one you see from there is going to be as a new player, it's going to be in the harbor, right across from the auctioneer there in the harbor. But what you can do with those is you can go on your ship, and once you talk to the main guy on your ship, which is on the top deck there, the captain, I think it is called, you can teleport to a variety of different locations. So that's a really helpful way to get around in DDO. The other main function of guilds is they give you buffs to make your character stronger. So those are two reasons why, really, even if you have no intention of socializing with anyone in your guild or playing with them, you should join a guild for those two reasons: to get the buffs and for transportation reasons. So when there's tons of guilds in DDO, I would say the vast majority of guilds aren't really there for socializing. They're there just to have a ship, to have transportation and the buffs. But there's also lots of guilds as well that have really organized social structures, and they organize guilds or they organize raids and leveling parties and stuff like that. So it's really there's a wide variety of different types of guilds, but no matter if you want to socialize or not, just want to point out you need to try and join a guild.
Yeah, I'd like to point out when it comes to joining a guild, that once you are in a guild, when you run quests, you'll find these things in chests called Guild Renown, which is basically the XP that allows the guild to increase in level. So for many guilds, if they want to be able to get better benefits or better buffs, they need to have the guild level increase. And that can take a long time if you're doing it by yourself. So it's advantageous for them to have more players, to run more quests and collect this stuff so the guild can increase in level. So even if you're joining a guild and you never socialize, the guild is still benefiting from you. You don't have to feel like you're a freeloader and taking advantage of them. As long as you're running quests and you're collecting guild renown, their guild moves ahead, and that's what they want. So if somebody recruits you, you can ask him, do we need to do anything? He says, nah, just run guild renown. You're good to go, and you'll be fine. You can use their ship, you can teleport around, and as long as you make sure you're picking up that stuff when you go through chests. So yeah, the guild is going to benefit. It's a win-win for everyone. So it's very useful. And if you want later to try to find a guild, that has either players or other things that you're interested in, it's not really a big deal to move from one guild to another guild. So if you leave, they'll lose a little bit of the guild renown you gained for them, but other than that, they don't really lose anything. So it's a net gain for everyone. So don't be worried about joining a guild. The guild can't really force you to do anything. The worst thing, just leave. So it's not a big deal.
And if you're looking for a guild, it's actually, from my experience, not too difficult. I mean, just running around on my free-to-play account, I have lots of people just blind invite me to guilds. But you can ask people that are in your party. If you don't group or you just solo, you can ask on any of the DDO, any of the social media resources or DDO.com forums. Or if you're on my server, you can hop into my Discord and ask for a guild invite, or just ask around. It's not too hard. Just any player you see in game, you could just ask around. But it's not too hard to find. Or you could even start your own guild if you really wanted to, although that is not free.
Float indicated that you can invite people to your guild airship to utilize the buffs, right? Even if they're not in your guild. And so as a new player, if you're grouped with someone, you see the little guild number, saying like 150, you can ask for a guild ship invite. And so they can invite you, you use the buffs, and then you can use the teleporter to get to wherever. So that is a nice thing to be able to do as a new player. And most people are perfectly fine with that, right? They just invite you. You got to be standing next to the airship door to get and accept the invite. But then you step on, get the buffs, and then travel to wherever you need to. So that's a good feature. And thank you, Float, for bringing that up.
And Waisakai mentioned you have to be VIP to pay or create a guild. Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah, I mentioned, it's not free to start a guild. So you'll probably, and you really don't need to. I mean, there's so many guilds around. I would just, as a new player, just look to join someone else's guild. Okay. Anything else you guys want to say on guilds?
Yeah, I was going to say really quick coming to that. When you're a new player, it's okay just to join a guild, because if you're going to solo level a guild, that's a completely different endeavor. That's kind of a more of an advanced topic, and Lord knows I've done it 3 or 4 times now. But just if you can, there almost every server, there's going to be a guild that's chosen to level up by quantity, not all the little various small guild bonuses. So don't worry about that. And then if you don't feel like that guild is a fit for you and you want to do everything on your own, I'm sure you can find a guide, and maybe maybe I'll make one on how to solo level a guild.
I've made actually a few of them how to level a guild up fast. Yeah, but as a new, if every time I've made a new character and haven't joined the guild, like after playing for about an hour, somebody's gonna try to recruit me to their guild. Sometimes multiple people, one after each other, like, "Hey, you want to join our guild? You don't have a guild." I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm fine. It's just a bank tool, and I'll send an invite from my own guild. It's fine. But yeah, people try to recruit you all the time. It's very easy to find a guild. I mean, just wait, and somebody will find you.
Okay, well, I think we've covered that. I think we did hirelings already. Let's move on to consumables. So, and Alvar mentioned this a little bit already, but what basic consumables should new players buy? Well, I guess I would jump in and say,
Potions?
Yeah, so potions is probably got to be number one. You can find these in the center of the marketplace. So as a new player, that's your first time to buy them. Go to the center of the marketplace, bunch of vendors there. Most of these, so you may not be able to afford a full stack, depending on how much platinum you have. But the really important ones I would say is potions of curse, poison, blind, resists, particularly if you don't have guild buffs. And also maybe jump pots are nice as well. There's a few quests where you really need, like the pit comes to mind, where you're going to want to have some jump. There's also cure potions of cure to just that will cure your hit points, but those are a little more expensive. So as a new player, you may not be able to afford those, but you may be able to afford instead cure wands, which are slower, but they're a lot cheaper in terms of the amount of healing you get out of them. Another one that I wanted to mention in terms of wands is if you can cast them depending on your build. Is there's +4 to stat wands that are really useful at low levels. So like Owl's Wisdom, what's the Bull Strength. Those are really nice because they essentially function as a +4 stat item, which you may not have access to quite yet if you're at level 1, 2, 3.
Shield wands.
Yeah. What else would you guys mention?
Well, if you're going pure free to play and you're not going to go ahead and buy some DDO points to remove your plat cap, as in your lower levels, you're going to hit that plat cap quick. Invest in consumables. Just once you hit the plat cap, just spend it
Yeah.
all on a various potion or wand or scrolls if you can, and just to bring that away from the cap so you can keep earning money and keep building up your resources as you travel through the game. You'll get free the plat cap at level 13. That's at level 13. The plat cap becomes the actual plat cap. So once you get around 10, it's not usually a worry, but you're going to hit it hard in levels 1 and 2 and maybe even 3.
Well, from my experience, I actually didn't even have to worry too much about that until I think on my free to play account that I started, I think it was I was buying stuff so often. This depends on who you're grouping with and all that, but I was buying stuff so often that I really didn't have too much of an issue with that. I think I eventually hit it, but as a new player, you're probably gonna be buying a lot of potions, a lot of wands, so you should be okay. But it definitely the plat cap does become an issue later on in the game for sure.
So I'm going to recommend 2 potions. One of them, Lesser Restoration. When you get to a point where mobs start casting things like Rave Enfeeblement, I keep thinking of Irestone Inlet, which is a level 4 quest. They constantly cast Rave Enfeeblement, which lowers your strength, and then you can't move very quickly and all kinds of stuff. Lesser Restoration takes care of that. Lesser Restoration also takes care of stat damage. If you get stat damage, it takes care of that. The other potion I would recommend is a haste potion. And the reason for that is because some mobs also cast slow. And sometimes that slow can be like for a minute or 2 minutes. And running slow for 2 minutes in this game absolutely sucks. So those are 2 potions I would recommend. And I think Aldbar may have mentioned it, but something that gives you protection from magic missile. It could be Night Shield or a Shield Wand, something like that, because magic missile, especially at lower levels, can absolutely wreck your day.
Yeah, and you can even buy, if you can cast it, if you have the UMD skill, and just throw this in there. This goes back to builds, but I would say every build as a new player should invest in UMD, the UMD skill. But if
Use magical device.
yeah, use magical device. I should say the whole thing. But yeah, use magical device is one of the skill options you level up. It lets you use basically equipment that's like if you're not let's say you're not a divine class and you invest in UMD, it'll let you use like raise dead scrolls or cure wands or whatever else. So it helps you with using the different items in the game is its main use. So definitely invest in use magical device. But yeah, that's just so helpful. But if you can buy that, if you can use some of these things, shield is so important. If you can get a shield wand, but you can also get night shield scrolls is another option. There's also if you have someone that can pick locks, there's actually one of the beginning quests in Korthos. You can get a item that has shield on it. But yeah, being immune to magic missiles is really, really helpful at low level starting out. So definitely look to get that.
And one other thing, if you are in a guild, you do get access to the guild vendors when the guild hits a specific level in House Kandaric. And those potions are bound to character, but they are cheaper to purchase than the ones that you can get in the harbor. So just something to note that if you are in a guild, there are access to the guild vendors in House Kandaric, over by where the mailbox is.
Yeah, that's a good point. And why Sky mentioned striding. Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. That's one of my like item recommendations because striding, I don't think you can buy from a scroll. Can you buy it from a scroll? I don't think you can. But you get free clickies in Korthos, so that's what I'd recommend regardless. Okay, well, let's see. What else we got here? Hirelings, I wanted to just mention that in the marketplace, I believe it's in the southeast, there's hireling vendors there that range a huge number of levels. I think it goes up all the way to level 20. So you can use that as your main hireling hub. So as you level, you'll want to go there to get, say you get to level 6, you can now use level 6 cleric hirelings because the hirelings you can use are the ones that are equal or less than your current character level. So you'll want to visit there often to get you like more powerful cleric hirelings. One thing I do want to mention on hirelings is generally you want to use them for healing and support, but generally if you're looking to use hirelings for like DPS, generally not what you want to do. They're mostly there for healing or support. They're not the best in terms of doing damage. Might be some exceptions. One big exception is in Korthos. Byron's Scout Sword is amazing for DPS in Korthos at level 1. So if you want someone to just kill everything, Byron's Scout Sword is your man. He's a Warforged barbarian. So, well, actually, he's not a man; it's a Warforged. But yeah, generally though, he's an exception, and you'll want to use hirelings for healing. But southeast in the marketplace for sure. Well, let's get into why Sakai mentioned here in chat, but let's get into like gear advice for starting out. So the things I want to mention first in Korthos, there's all kinds of great gear in Korthos you can use as a new player. From Korthos, some of the key ones and these are available as quest rewards if you do all the quests in Korthos. There's a Featherfall clicky, I believe it's called the Cloak of Feather Falling. Super useful. At low levels, you need some way to feather fall. What that is it lets you fall from high areas without taking damage. You'll slowly float down instead of just falling like an anchor. So that's super useful later on. If you can, when you find a random generated feather fall item, you can replace that clicky with a permanent item. But at least for level 1, that one's super good. There's also an underwater clicky, the same thing, except it lets you breathe underwater. Now, if you're, say, a Warforged, you won't have to, or undead, you wouldn't have to deal with this because you don't have to worry about breathing underwater. But for most players, having some kind of underwater item later on, you can, just like Featherfall, replace this with what's called an underwater action item, which lets you just breathe underwater permanently. But at least for now, at level 1, you can get the underwater clicky. The best gear in Korthos, in my opinion, is the Boots of Expeditious Retreat. That is also available from a quest reward that gives you 5 minutes of the spell Expeditious Retreat, which increases your run speed by 25%. So that is so important. I would actually recommend as a new player running that quest. And I wish I could remember the name of the quest. I think is it Sacrifices? Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. It is?
It's the first one. So you run in, you talk to the guy at the top of the hill, and then drop down to...
Okay, is it stopping the Sawagan?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's the side chest. You can get
You're talking about 2 different items.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Boots of Expeditious Retreat.
The end reward is what Axel said from Sacrifice. What you're mentioning is a different clicky that comes from Stopping the Saga. There's 2 items in Korthos.
Oh, okay.
To do,
okay. I've never actually used the one from the chest. I've always just used the one from Sacrifices. But anyway, in any case,
you get a random pair of boots. One of them is a sprint clicky.
Oh, in addition, are you talking about the chest with the
yeah, but it's not
the frost
the
or
one you
ice?
said Sacrifice, yes.
Yeah.
Sacrifice, you finish it. There's a guarantee list. One of them is the boots with the clicky.
Yeah, so I would recommend running Sacrifices at least twice, if not 3 times, to get 3 different copies of those boots. So you can click them because they have 2 uses of 5 minutes of Expeditious Retreat. It's going to make your life, especially at low levels without a mount, to go around in the public areas so much easier. So run Sacrifices, I would say at least twice, if not 3 times, and get 3 copies of those boots. So those are just so helpful. It's also part of a pretty useful melee set if you're on a melee character there in Korthos. What else? I think those are the ones I've listed. What do you all? I'll let you all chime in now. What other, like, we're talking super low level gear, do you think is really important for a player, a free to play player?
So from my experience, if you are playing a support character early on that still has to do melee, you're going to need the goggles of insight for that +1 to attack. It's just, it used to be in the old days, you'd wear those all the way to 20 because other than the dream visor, it was the only way to get +1 to attack. But even now at low levels, just getting that +1 to attack when your base attack value is just a little bit behind the true melee guys until you get your spells or whatever it is you're trying to do up. It's just golden.
The two item sets, like Anchor Step, there's the Pathfinder set. There's a few different. So you get one for finishing, I think, the last quest in Korthos, and then you get one after you finish Misery's Peak. So those two set items, I mean, it gives you like +3 to search and disable for one set. I think that's the troubleshooter's goggle or troubleshooter set. So those really help, especially if you're trying to do a trapper. Having that +3 early on helps. One thing as a character that traps, gear is really important to make sure that you can find traps and disable traps. And that set works really well, really early with that bonus. But then Anger Step is another one that gives you the clickies for of Expeditious Retreat, right? So there's those two item sets help out a bunch.
A couple other things I want to mention as far as gearing. If you're a melee character, one of the things you'll face at low levels is things that destroy your weapons. So oozes, you'll face those right in the harbor. So there's a couple ways to deal with this. There's certain items that you might be able to get something like the Muckbane, which is from a quest in the harbor, which is immune to breaking. Or you can do what I think is the more practical thing to do is just you'll want to have a few different weapons. So if say you use great axes, you're a barbarian or something, you want to have a few great axes that you find just sticking around in your inventory so that when you encounter an ooze, you can pull out, say, a great axe that you don't care about breaking, because the oozes and rust monsters will break your weapons as you hit them. So if you have a few extra ones that you don't mind breaking, you can kill the oozes or rust monsters with those, and then go back to your main weapon after you kill those. Now, it is better if you have, say, a crystal weapon or something, but as a free-to-play player, you're really not going to have that. You might get lucky and pull an Oozebane, but if, let's say, you're a two-handed fighting barbarian, do you really want to use an Oozebane as one, which is a one-handed weapon? You won't be doing as much damage. So I find it easier to just have a few just junk loot weapons in my inventory, even if they're not. Maybe I use great axes, but maybe it's a great club or something. At least something that's that I can pull out and break and not really care about.
All right, I want to jump in here for one of my things on my channel. We even have an icon for it. I recommend for oozes and whatnot. I know it's a little slower, but I plink at them with a trash dagger. Find a returning throwing weapon and just plink at them.
Yeah,
And don't
that's
even
an
worry
option.
about it getting close enough to damage not only your weapons but your rings or your armor or whatnot. Just get yourself, because from what I understand that the returning throwing weapons, they can't be damaged by oozes anyway. You just get yourself a trash dagger.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anyways, like as a new player, be on the lookout for especially if you're say like an archer, you don't worry about this. But particularly if you're a melee character, look out for any kind of returning throwing weapon. You always want to have one of those in your inventory, because even if you don't need it for damage, and as Doug said, you can use it against oozes, that's a good use for it. But you need it there's certain places in the game where you need it to hit levers and such. So, or there's even a couple places in the game where there might be an enemy that you have to kill to progress that's on a ledge that you can't reach in melee. So you'll want to have it for that. I know the Restless Isles in the Wilderness area, there's one place where that's, because it's pretty rare, but there are a couple sections in the game where you will need that. So that's a good thing to be on the lookout for as a new player. And if you can't get a returning one, they do have ones that are that are limited, like 50 of them. I mean, that's fine. Just have something you can throw. But really, you want a returning one eventually, so you don't have to worry about running out of ammo. Is there
One
anything?
extra item that comes from that same list where you get the boots? Actually, it could be this one comes from the Misery's Peak list. Is a necklace that will allow you. It's basically a clicky. Clicky is an item that you activate and you click on it, hence it's called a clicky, and it gives you a specific buff. So one of them allows you to basically restore some of your spell points and has 2 charges on it. And this is very useful even to end game if you're very stuck and you need like a little bit of spell points to save you. And a lot of players get a level 1 and they keep it all the way to level 30. They just keep on make sure they have it in inventory just in case, they have to cast that one spell that, they're too low on spell points. So it's a very, very useful item to have, at least one of them. It's exclusive, so you can only have one of them in your inventory. But yeah, it's worth
Yeah,
getting
one
on that list.
one thing to bear in mind is, unlike a lot of other MMOs, you can switch weapons mid-combat. The game does not care. So what you can do is you can stick like your clicky on one spot on your hotbar, stick your throwing dagger, your trash dagger, as Doug would call it, on another spot. And there's in the character UI, there's also a thing where you can build like if you want to switch out if you're going to switch out like a two-handed weapon for a sword and a shield, for example, you can set up little weapon things that you can then drag onto your hotbar. Then you can click them and it'll switch both at the same time. It's really cool. But yes, switching your stuff in the middle of combat, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Just do it. Have fun.
Another thing I wanted to point out was, if again for melee characters, Ghost Touch. If you can find a Ghost Touch weapon, really helpful because you'll encounter some of these like wraiths and other incorporeal monsters that they have incorporality. So oftentimes it means they have a 50% miss chance. So 50% chance you'll miss them if you don't have some kind of Ghost Touch, some way to bypass that. Now some enhancements like Knights of the Chalice Paladin get that inherently, but others may not. So if you can find a Ghost Touch weapon, hold on to it. Okay, anything else you guys want to mention in terms of items to look out for at low levels?
You mentioned all the easy stuff. I mean, how
Yeah.
hard, until what level do you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, because I wanted to almost say like True Seeing, but that's a little bit later on. True Seeing is nice as well, but that's a little harder to get than say Ghost Touch.
And
Okay.
I think what we've gone over is a good
I
starting
think it's a good
point.
starting point. Yeah, I don't want to get too advanced.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go on to the next thing on my list was grabbing your free storage bags, but we really already covered that. Let's see.
Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine, Druid's Fire. I just want to make sure that we get through all this stuff. Is what order doesn't really that important. Making platinum we kind of already covered. Let's go into this one. So, quest recommendations. So the first 10 or so levels, what are the areas of the game that you would recommend players kind of focus on? I mean, we gave the general overview, but what are some more specific quests you think players should look to do or look to avoid?
I don't think they should avoid any quests.
Maybe
honestly.
Stealthy Repo, but
Well, I mean, it's a learning experience, right?
Yeah.
And the XP for Stealthy Repo is actually really good at level.
yeah, it's just difficult.
Proof is in the
Stealthy
pudding.
Repossession, in case anybody's like, what?
Yeah, Stealthy Repossession. It's
Yeah.
it's a level, I think, 2 quests in the harbor.
Yeah, in the harbor. Yeah. I think if you're a new player starting out, just explore, right? I think that's the key to really enjoying DDO. And I've been really enjoying that when I'm streaming, being able to go and explore all of these quests that I haven't done these deep dives on before, right? So, I mean, there's an order to do them in, right? And we kind of already touched on that. But yeah, I mean, do the quests. Proof is in the Poison, which is in the harbor, which is a level. Is it a level 4? I think it's a
4.
level 4. That is a rough quest for a new player.
Yeah, some are more difficult than others. Most of them are around the same, I mean, based on their level, but there are a couple quests, like Proofs in the Poison is one that are more difficult in terms of the mobs. And then there's some that are like the pit that are more difficult in terms of just figuring out how to, the mechanics and progressing through. But most of them are pretty equivalent.
I think all these quests are all doable, but some of them
Yeah.
you just need to make sure that you have some kind of guide before you step in there. If you step in there blind, you're going to be miserable. If you try to do the pit the first time by yourself, I doubt you're going to finish it.
And it's an
Yeah, you can
outlier,
walk
by
around
the way.
You can walk around there for an hour and a half and not finish it.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, Kobold Assault. I mean, if you're even slightly prepared, you'll be fine. But if not, you'll just wipe. And the
Eh,
same thing with the
yeah.
proof is in the poison. If you got your acid protection and shield protection, whatever, you'll be fine. But other than that, you need to prepare yourself. But so these are warnings, but not telling to tell you not to do them. Just make sure you see some kind of guide before you step in for the first time. You'll be fine.
In those two quests that you mentioned there, Proofs in the Poison and Cobalt Assault, they're marked as extreme challenge dungeons, which is really just an indicator that they're a little bit harder than normal. So
Yeah,
you get
true.
a little bit, more. And and the other thing is you can always lower difficulty. Like if you're doing elite or hard and you can't handle it, you can always go down. It's fine if you want to check out the quest, or even go to casual if you want to.
Well, a lot of people are talking about some of the negatives. What I'd like to point out is that throughout most of the early quests, you're only going to find like one or two like named items or whatnot. There's not a whole lot down at the lower levels, and then you hit Tier of Deccan. That's that's probably the best low level under 10 quest, because if you can do all the optionals, you can find some amazing loot in that quest, and you're gonna
Hmm.
love it.
Yeah, the optional loot in that quest is pretty nice. I know I was using, I think it was a great sword, I think, that has expanded crit profile in there and from one of the optionals. But yeah, there's probably too much to go into for this podcast, but we could do a whole podcast on like what's the specific loot you should go after and farm for lower levels, and what should your gear set be like. A lot of the topics here, honestly, we could do a whole podcast on. Like, no, we could probably do a whole one on hirelings, honestly.
Best loot for level.
Yeah.
Team
Okay.
10 piece.
Okay, so I would say, other than, now I know I mentioned stealthy repossession. It's just that's when I mentioned that quest, it throws people for a loop because it's very stealth focused. It's just an outlier quest. You can try it if you want, no problem. It's very different. So as a new player, maybe avoid that one, in my opinion. But it's fine if you want to give it a shot. It's just you can't kill certain monsters, and then others like the pit. I think if you're really up for a challenge in terms of like figuring out where to go, then give it a shot. But it's more of a more complex dungeon. I think that one is level 7, I believe. Okay. We mentioned already how to find quests. Let's get into premium stuff. So non free to play quests. Is there anything from level 1 to 10 you think is really worth jumping into? That's or maybe worth buying for a new player in terms of your
Are we
non free to play content.
are we talking outside of expansions?
Uh, Well, yeah, let's outside. Let's not go in. We'll go into expansions later. So non-expansion. Yeah, let's say non-expansion content.
To start, I would say Borderlands.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think Borderlands gives you really good level one loot. So like on future characters, you can stock up on things like there's the Mantle of Gentle Descent, which is just permanent Featherfall, as opposed to the Featherfall Clicky from Korthos. There's other items out of there, and it also gives you the ability to get Qual's Feather tokens, which are a token that you can use to turn into a vendor in Borderlands to get an 80% speed mount.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually the first mounts that people can get in the game. So Borderlands, I think, is a good early purchase if you want some good lower level content as well as gear. You also have access to the vendor, where you can purchase silver weapons and weapons that have ghost touch um,
Mm-hmm.
to get you those items early on.
Yeah, Borderlands has got to be number one under level 10 just for the mount alone. So for anyone who doesn't know, a mount, what those are in DDO is you can use them either in wilderness areas or in public areas. Wilderness areas are the instances between quests will have active mobs that'll attack you, whereas public areas are just the public areas with no enemy mobs that you can run around through the world. But mounts can be used either in wilderness. They can't be used in quests, but either wilderness or public areas, and they just help you get around a lot faster. And Borderlands is the only place in the game where you can get one outside of DDO Store or paid options or get limited time giveaways like Year of the Dragon stuff.
Or
Borderlands.
events.
or
like
expansion bundles. Yeah.
Maybar.
Yeah, or events. Yeah, limited time events or giveaways. Other than that, Borderlands is your only place
I just want to add to
to
it
get it for
that
free.
Borderlands also has an epic version, and the epic item's also very good. So
Hmm.
that's just another plus why I would recommend it.
Yeah, and another one I'd point out is Catacombs, just because it is so cheap in the store. They've reduced the price to, I think it's less than 100 DDO points for Catacombs. So it's not amazing gear or anything, but it would give you gear content to play both at low levels and in epic levels, because it has an epic level version. So it might be worth it. I think it's, maybe someone in chat can say, but I think it's somewhere between, say, like 70 and 90 DDO points. I think it's really cheap. So you can easily get that just by playing and earning points.
All right, well, I'm going to go to the other end of the thing and say Red Fens, because Red Fens also has an epic version of it now. But I like Red Fens because after the changes they made, Red Fens, I think, is one of the earliest places outside of expansions you can get gear sets. And with that, the Red Fens gear has come up quite a bit in my own ratings. And actually, when combined with the stuff from Menec Terran, and we'll get into that a little bit when we get into expansions, you can make a really good end gear set using nothing but stuff from Menec Terran and Red Fence.
And the really nice thing about Red Fens too is that the gear drops on in reward lists, so it's really easy. It doesn't take much effort to get those gear sets, and there's some really nice epic and heroic gear sets there for a wide variety of characters. Oh, Troggy's saying Catacombs is 250. I'm pretty sure it was like even cheaper than that. Maybe it was on a sale or
It might have
something.
been on
Sometimes it's part of a
sale.
bundle. Yeah.
Okay, maybe it was on sale when I saw it, but I know I saw it for like less than 100 recently. Okay, anyways.
Uh, Also, Catacombs sometime don't. Did they bring back the starter thing where you can get Catacombs, the hireling and whatnot, or is that gone?
I believe so. I'm not sure
I don't
though.
remember, but it used to be part of a bundle. Might still be.
And the other thing I need to mention is that every once in a while, DDO does this free content giveaway code. You never know when it's going to happen. They tend to do it once a year or so, but you might want to wait on that as a new player. So they'll do a free code giveaway, and when you turn that code into the store, they use it as a promotion. You get every single adventure pack, not the expansions, but every single adventure pack for free. So
Except for the newest one.
except for the newest
Left those
one,
out.
and yeah, the newest one and the expansions. Yes, but so there might be a few things not included, but most all of them it does include. So could wait for that. It's up to you if you want to wait or not. You just never know when or if they're going to do that again. But it has happened. I think three times they've done the code, maybe four.
Waisukai pointed out Tangleroot.
Mm-hmm.
There is the Death Ward clicky that you can get, Visors of the Flesh Render. Visors of the Flesh Render. Also, completing that, on elite difficulty will give you access to the House Fjarlin vendor with the buffs, the extended buffs that you can get, which was kind of a thing for all hardcore seasons where we're all starting off with new tunes. So, Tangleroot, for that stuff, especially if you're going to stay free to play or become premium and not get, expansions and stuff. That's actually not a bad call out.
I'd also point out the new quests, because you can buy those individually. So if you want to only buy like one quest or two quests, you can buy the Tavern Tales pack quests individually, and it's like brand new quests. They have low level versions, and they have great, amazing up to date gear. So yeah. Vaisakai mentions Fall of the Night Brigade, yeah, which has a level 4 version. Yeah, that one's nice. It is more expensive, but compared to some of these older ones. But yeah, that's a good one too.
I would honestly recommend Delira because there is some loot in there. I don't know necessarily how good or bad or indifferent it is, but it gives you the option to get a trinket at level 7-ish that gets you plus 5% XP.
Yep, that one is
And then you
great.
can get, later on, you can run it on Epic and get the Epic version, which is an minimum level 20 item that also gives you that and some other goodies on it, like heroic something or other. and striding, I think.
I think
It's
it's
been a lot
good.
of quest line, honestly.
It's good luck +3, and it's a trinket, so it's got, or it's a minor artifact, so it's got more slots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Delaire out of all of these probably has the best XP. Delaire has very, very good XP. So
So they
if
do
that's
No
what,
need
doubt.
to fix the quest
yeah, if you care.
sequence.
One other one that is right on the border there that someone brought up was Vaughn, Vault of Night. Right, those are level 8 and 9 quests. Level 10 for the raid. Um, so the raid has some really good loot in it. Um, Specifically Sword of Shadows, which is probably one of the best two-handed weapons in the game. But you also have, I mean, like Jungle of Kyber, which is the third Bond quest, has fantastic XP. Um, and so that's actually another good one. And it all counts as House Kandaric favor, which helps get you towards your patron bank extra bank slots that are available.
Okay, so is there anything else you guys want to say on that? I think the next thing I could jump into is we can get to expansions if you want to buy those. Which ones you guys would recommend for new players? So expansions. So in DDO, I need to explain that there's regular adventure packs and then expansions. The main difference is if you sub to VIP, you get all the adventure packs for free, but VIP still have to buy the expansion. The expansions are kind of the most premium content in DDO. They tend to release one a year. Sometimes it's every other. Really, it's been one a year for quite a while now. But the expansions are the big content. They usually have something called a saga attached to it, which is pretty unique to those. So a saga means if you do all the quests in the expansion, sometimes it might include other quests as well that are related. Say like the for example, like Sharn includes the prequel quest in the harbor, but you have a saga. You complete all the quests, you get a big fancy reward, which is usually a big chunk of XP or some ingredients or something. But that's the things that differentiates expansions. They also include wilderness areas, which is what I explained before, which are the areas kind of you run through to get to quests. Usually those, at least these days, with newer content, they tend to only be in expansions. But certainly that's not true for a lot of older adventure packs. But as they make new content these days, expansions tend to have the wilderness areas, and they always have, with the exception I think of Shadow Hole Conspiracy, they all have at least one raid in them. Also Saltmarsh. But yeah, so expansions. What do you guys think if players do want to step their toe into buying expansions? Which again, as a new player, you don't have to, but if they were to, which ones would you all recommend them buying, and how would you recommend them going about buying it?
All right. Well, I said I'd get to here, so let's go right now. But if you get the Red Fence and you get Medic Terran, what you're going to want to get is Salt Marsh, because Salt Marsh will have the crystals, and you're going to need those in combination with some other ingredients and the appropriate equipment from those two packs to upgrade them to first to epic and then to legendary versions. It's a really easy way to take stuff that you've already farmed and make it grow with your character. So I would recommend Saltmarsh, and then if you're looking just for a general gear set, maybe Ravenloft. After that, it's up to you.
I have to pick one expansion for new players. I think Saltmarsh wins hands down. It has the most options. The low level gear is very, very, very good. And you have epic versions, which are very easy to craft. We don't require anything more than this trash ingredient that you get tons of. So it's very easy to upgrade them to level 20. And you just farm out the low level gear very easy, very fast, because you can rerun the quest when you're way over level, and you can upgrade it to level 20, and it can carry all the way to level 30, and then you can just straight upgrade to level 30 or farm out just gear at level 30. You'll have tons of experience from it. The wilderness area is also very, very easy to farm when you're way under level. It's not scary. You can be level 20 and farm the legendary monsters with no problem. It
Get
drops
it?
also satiate XP, and there's minor artifacts. And basically, if you can have one stop to get everything, I think the best. And because they marked it as a mini expansion, it's actually cheaper. It's like I think 2,000 DDO points, so like $20. So I think if you're gonna buy one expansion, I would always recommend Saltmarsh. I think that's overall the best. There's one thing you have to keep in mind though, that all the expansions are like kind of like a tone shift. Like you have a new area that has a certain vibe to it, and that's gonna be to the individual. So certain players might like a certain thing. So if you like Barovia, whatever it is, a certain kind of vibe that it gives you. So then, if that's why you're buying it, I can't tell you which one's the best. It's going to be individually. You might love Feywild because you like, the Fey environment, but everyone will be different. But if you're just going to go for I think the best value is Saltmarsh.
Yeah,
And one thing to bear in mind is twice a year they tend to put expansions on sale for real money. So the next one is coming up here probably in June, the summer sales. No guarantees, but historically they tend to do a sale on expansions. And so you can catch yourself a really good discount, especially on the older ones like Ravenloft. Well, that's in the Trove now. But Saltmarsh being like probably the oldest, or is it Feywild? I forget. Um, but you can probably score yourself a really good deal on the cash market. Even getting, for example, they've done like 75%, 85% off. And if you think about that and getting like the top level one, it's still quite economical. Again, it depends on budget, and if people can afford what they can afford. Make your own decisions there. But if you want the accessibility of some of the goodies that come with a cash shop purchase, I mean the real money version, then you've got like hirelings. Sometimes you get extra bags. You get a teleport clicky. So that's something to think about in terms of which expansion you get and when you get it. Is it going to be on sale? And June is probably going to be your next best bet.
Yeah, so sales are really important to watch out for. So as Drew Fire was saying, they tend to do them in the summer, and you'll typically see them Black Friday, so November, and usually as well around New Year's, so the very end of the year. That's the main time to look out for sales, but they'll go for 25%, 50%, sometimes 75% off. And the first three expansions, is Sharn included now in the Trove? I don't know if Sharn is or not, but at least the first three.
No, it's separate.
It's not? Okay. So the first three expansions are sold together in a Trove. So if you can get that on sale, you can get the first three, which is Menace of the Underdark, Shadowfell Conspiracy, and Ravenloft for like $10, something like that. So yeah, so be on the lookout for sales. But I would agree with Aldbar. I think for a new player, it's hard to not say if you want to buy something, you don't have to. Again, you don't have to buy any expansions starting out. But if you want to, Saltmarsh is a really good choice. You get level 3 content, so you can play it even right when you start almost, and it's really good gear, and you can upgrade it. It has 3 layers of versions: heroic version, epic version, and in-game version. So you can stick. It's not the best gear in the game or anything, but it's very competitive, and it's very flexible and convenient because it's available at a wide variety of level ranges, and it's pretty exclusive. It's pretty unique in that effect. I mean, most all the other expansions either have 1 or 2 different level ranges where their gear can exist at, just heroic and legendary, but Saltmarsh has heroic, epic, and legendary. So that means minimum level 3 for heroic, minimum level 20 for your character to wear it in epic, and minimum level 30 for the legendary stuff. So it's really, really nice, I think. And it's pretty simple. The quests are not too complicated either, so I think it's a good introduction for new players. In the wilderness area is really helpful too for farming
Don't forget
gear.
them star crystals.
Yeah, you can get those as well for upgrading stuff. So you can just, like Albo was saying, you can get a gear set at level 3, and when you get to level 20, you can upgrade all that gear and then upgrade it again at level 30. So it's a good choice.
I'm going to throw out one alternate, just because this is one of my favorite expansions, which is Feywild. The reason I like Feywild is you can have the heroic version makes it very simple to put together a gear set at different levels. So Seasons of the Feywild, which is the heroic gear set for Feywild, as you get gear, named items in the quests, you put them on, and then it starts at 2, and I think goes up to 7 or 8 different pieces, and each different tier gives you a different bonus, right? for a new player trying to figure out what we refer to as the gear Tetris, which is trying to figure out what piece of gear you're going to put here to get your stats. Seasons of the Feywild makes it very simple, right? You get all these extra bonuses and you can slot these named items into your build, which helps you out. And then when you get to the legendary version of it, which is level 29 gear, it breaks it out into the individual seasons. So spring, autumn, winter, fall, or spring, autumn, winter, summer. And it gives you very specific things. Like summer is like your damage, winter is like your defensive, autumn is like your caster set, right? So it gives you a good level of it makes it a little bit easier for you to figure out your gear, as opposed to, I'm going to fit this 3-piece set in here, and then I'm going to get this 2-piece set and put it here. Oh, I can't use this 2-piece set because I have to have a ring for both, or I have to have bracers for both. So for me, Feywild, plus I love the storyline in Feywild. I think the area is beautiful. The wilderness is good. So, for me, I would recommend Feywild. I like Salt Marsh, but for me, Feywild is more of my favorite.
The other ones I would mention is in terms of like practical uses. I think I gotta say Sharn. It's just a lot of content for your money, and Sharn, particularly the heroic gear, is so darn good. From playing from level 15 to even level cap with until you get to cap, a lot of people use that gear for that. So Sharn is super useful and super popular. Isle of Dread is still amazingly helpful. The weapons, particular for end game, if you get to level cap, and this is as a new player, this is going to be quite a while for you. But if you can get to cap, the Dino Bone weapons are available for every different weapon type, and they're super good and helpful. Other than that, I think the last one I want to mention is Ravenloft, and this is strictly from a fun perspective or immersion perspective, getting away from the practical aspect of things. Ravenloft is considered, obviously in pen and paper, it's a very popular setting, but in DDO, the Ravenloft expansion, from my experience, is the most loved by players in terms of content design and fun and immersion. So I think you can't beat Ravenloft if you have yourself and a couple of friends and you want to just go run something and really immerse yourself in a story and a setting. I think Ravenloft is the best content they've ever done in terms of just design. And it's also this year getting a follow-up expansion with Lemornia. So those are my other recommendations.
Just to double down on that Ravenloft thing, I am not a fan of gothic fiction at all. I do not like vampire fiction at all. But the quest design in Ravenloft got me so hard. I can never miss Ravenloft. It's just the quest design was absolutely brilliant. Aside from Ravensbane.
All in the Wilderness area is so pretty as
Ravenloft
well.
starts off with Death House, and it has some of the best voice acting in the entire game. I just love the voice acting in Death House.
Okay.
And you get a free nice weapon at level 10.
Yeah.
Another free nice weapon and a sentient jewel at level 29, or you run in early, talk to the guy and get it again. And it has this ginormous wilderness that was made before they put mounts in the game. Holy Christmas. And again, the voice acting in it is just so good. And Castle Ravenloft is... I have to keep looking at the maps, but it is... I'm not a horror fan. The only vampire thing I ever really like is an obscure Canadian TV show called Forever Night. Long story. But I was really sucked into Ravenloft. Is like, yeah, this is getting a little bit too close to... I'm not a horror fan at all. In fact, I don't like it. I can live with Ravenloft. It's really good. So I keep wondering why Galadriel keeps sending me back to Castle Ravenloft, because it's the same voice actress as Galadriel in Lord of the Rings Online. It's so
really?
funny. Oh yeah, there's
That's
a couple of
great.
voice actors they share between the games. The lady who does all the kobolds in DDO does a lot of voice acting over in LOTRO too, and it's funny as hell.
Oh yeah, Cindy Robinson. Is that who you're referring to? Yeah, Cindy's great. She has a lot of the voice acting. She's definitely my favorite voice actress or actor, period.
still hate
DDO.
you.
Yes, she's awesome. I like a lot of her work from Miscellaneous Underdark, which is my personal favorite expansion in the game. But it's hard to recommend.
As far as voice actors go, my favorite's Lady Vol, but I don't know who does the voice.
I'm not sure. Well, is there anything else you guys want to say regarding expansions?
I mean, I love Feywild. I will also go on record as saying I love Mr. Enor. I don't love Mr. Enor's loot drop. Saying I'll set that aside and let that be another fight.
Yeah.
But in terms of sheer beauty and the fact that I'm an elf nerd, so I love it. I even like Times Long Past.
My favorite quest in that expansion.
It just suits my personal fantasy world aesthetic. And I'm going to give a shout out to Bill Champagne, the current composer of DDO, who has been working on things since he did like half of Sharn is when he first came on board, and he's done all the composing of the game since then. His stuff for Feywild, he's obviously been listening to a little bit too much Stravinsky and Shostakovich, but for folks who only play the other game, Lotro, don't really get to see the range that he gets to do. Like Vecna, nobody's mentioned Vecna Unleashed, which I actually find is a rather fun expansion because you get to kick his butt. But his soundtracks have just gotten better and better and better over time. And then the weird, silly things he did in like the date with Fred. Oh my god, it was so funny.
Yeah, I think with Vecna, it's hard to recommend that one just because it's at a weird level range and you can't play it until level 18, I think it is. So it's for a new player especially. I can't recommend, even though the gear's really good, especially for endgame. Well, really just for endgame because no one really uses like minimum level 18, 17 gear, but it's hard to recommend.
I mean, use
that
it for
one.
a couple levels, and if you've got Keep on the Borderlands, as soon as you hit 20, you grab that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can. I never really bother. I just put on stuff at 15 and wear that till 20, but yeah, you could if you wanted to. Yeah.
For Artificers, the rune arms are nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on then. I think the next thing here is I just wanted to mention because it's something I don't use or know a lot about, but I want to bring up Cannith crafting. Do you think that's something that new players should bother with? So for anyone who doesn't know, that's a kind of an overarching crafting system in the game that covers a wide variety of level ranges. It's completely optional part of the game, but there is in Harbor, there's an NPC that points you to the crafting hall for a tutorial. That's one of the NPCs you'll see there I think he's over there near the guild, where the bridge is with the guild ship entrance. He's to the left of that if you're facing the guild ship entrance across the bridge. But Cannith crafting, what do you all think? Do you think it's worth new players touching? I would say personally no, but what do y'all think?
I don't even use it. I mean, I have a character I leveled up through Cannith. I did some Cannith crafting. I don't actually use it. I think if you were going to min-max and really push top tier Reaper mode stuff, like go be a high performance player, heck yeah. But if you're not, you can live without it.
I'm a huge crafter, but that's only because I've been playing since 2009 and I religiously keep everything. There's just no way when the current Cannith crafting system for a new player to catch up because the mat requirements, and it's something I've beefed with for a long time, especially the uncommon crafting materials. They're just too hard to get. They're just too hard to get in the quantities you're going to need to be able to make Cannith crafting worthwhile. If they introduced a system where you can trade up and down, even if it's outrageous amounts, I would take 10 to 1 common to uncommon right now because I am swamped with so many, and I'd be willing to go down. I'm swamped with so many rares. If they had that, then I would say, yeah, do it now. But as it stands right now, the sheer block with the requirements for uncommon crafting materials is something they are not even going to address with the VIPs until January of next year. And that's if you've been a VIP for the first full year. No, it's not worth it for a new player. I'd leave it alone.
Yeah, I'd say just as a new player, just use the gear you find as you get a higher level. You'll find higher level gear in chests. That's generally what you want to use if you don't have, Obviously, the new player, if you don't own other content and you don't have gear sets put together, just use the gear you find. You'll be just fine, especially if you're just doing normal or hard.
Yeah, I think Cannith crafting, I mean, there are going to be some people who have played other MMOs and they just want to craft, right? Um, I would still not recommend Cannith crafting. Um, I mean, my crafter's only at 240, so I can craft some basic stuff. My wife's crafting level is way higher than mine. If I want something, I'll give her essences so she can make something for me. Um, and I know Waisakai mentioned, just find someone else uh, and have them craft something for you if you want something. Because to be fair, if you're doing the multiple reincarnations, which we're going to get to a little bit later, um, having those double slotted items that you could put on at lower levels is nice. Um, but it's a pain to level up your crafting. I think that's one of the biggest roadblocks is just trying to level up your crafting at a significant enough pace to be able to craft anything that's decent. Um, and so, yeah, I would not recommend it to someone who is just brand new, fresh off the boat.
I would say for new players, a lot of the recipes you can't even access because you won't have the ingredients you need to a much higher level. So for a new player, definitely I do not recommend it. And if you must have, again, you might be able to get it from somebody else. Like maybe they'll say, give me the certain ingredients. You might be able to buy them off the auction house, give it to them, and they'll craft it for you. But barring that, I would avoid Cannith crafting unless you've made it at least once to cap. Once you get to the top level, the biggest roadblock is trying to level up your character. And the way you level it up is by crunching a whole bunch of random gen loot and then spending all of the essences on making these default shards who increase your level. And the fastest way to get a lot of this essence is only at when you're highest level. So if you're low level, don't even think about it. If you're staying at cap, so then yes. You Another thing I should point out is you're not going to make all of your gear into Cannith crafted, like only one or two pieces. But those one or two pieces will be able to cover up the exact specific things you're missing from your set to make it perfect. So it is very powerful, but only once you get up to cap. So do not do it as a low level player. And yeah, unless you've done a few TRs, you probably won't have the ingredients you need. And every time you want to craft something, you'll have to go start farming ingredients. So just avoid it. New players, stay away from it. It's not for you.
Yeah, Troggy
One thing
mentioned.
for new players you can do though is if you have junk loot, you can still deconstruct it, and the essences you can sell on the auction house and make some cash.
And
And
that's what
people are always
Troggy
looking for that.
mentioned. I was going to bring up. Yeah, you can use it as a money making mechanism if you want to. But I still think you're probably going to have enough platinum, at least from my experience from playing on a free play account this year. You're going to have enough platinum if you just do quests, get your junk loot, and sell it. But if you want a little more plat, plus you have the plat cap to deal with as a free to play account. But yeah, you could use it as a money making mechanism.
If you are deciding to go Cannith crafting, one thing you're going to have to accept is that you're going to have to religiously go into quests and farm every single collectible node, and you're going to have to keep every single collectible because you're just not going to know what you're going to need until you hit the level of Cannith crafting. At level 275, you can craft everything for your own personal need. And at that point, you just going to start finding out what collectibles you're going to need, and you probably are not going to expect to know which ones those are. So you're going to have to collect every single one.
Yeah, I guess we can mention because collectibles is a big thing that new players see. We can just talk about them just briefly. I think for Cannith crafting, certain ones can be useful for sure, but I think generally there's other uses for collectibles. You can turn them in for like consumables or for a random augment. I find as a new player, don't be too concerned about collectibles generally because I find that you need too many of them in order to get anything that's super useful. So if you can fit them in your collectibles bag, sure, but otherwise, don't worry too much about collectibles. They're not a super valuable thing in the game outside of certain ones for crafting.
Call back to the start of the show when mentioned going premium. One of the benefits of becoming premium is you have access to the shard exchange, which is a in-game auction house that uses shards, which are converted from real money. And if you want to post anything in there or even buy something off of it, you're going to have to become premium. Yeah, and one of the things that sells over there are crafting ingredients. So if you do it to be premium, you'll be able to sell your collectibles, at least the good ones, and potentially make a lot of shards off of that, which then can allow you to buy unlock very good abilities later on in the game.
Hey, will you say that again? I think you just for about 5 seconds there you phased out. I think connection got a little stuttery.
Sorry.
No, you're
I'll say again. From where? I don't know. I'll
maybe
start over. From
you went
the
stuttering for maybe
beginning.
5 seconds.
Okay. Basically, if you are premium, you will have access to a shard exchange, which is another in-game action house. And a lot of the things that players sell over there are collectibles, which are used for crafting. So even if you don't craft, if you collect collectibles, you can put them on the shard exchange and make a lot of shards. And later, buy nice augments and other things that are very useful.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you guys want to say on Cannith crafting? We'll go to I think the next topic, which is the DDO Store. Okay. Well, let's talk about the DDO Store. So, as a new player, as you do quests, as you earn favor, for every 100 favor, you get 25 DDO points. And as your first time favor, for your first 400 favor, you get extra bonus DDO points. So, what we all recommend in terms of DDO Store, if the players want to buy stuff, which again, you don't have to use the store at all, but if you want to buy some stuff with those points, what would you all recommend? And do you think it's essential to spend real money? I know we talked about Doug brought up earlier that you can spend a little bit of money to unlock premium versus free to play, but it's just in terms of specific things in the store. Is there anything you all recommend?
I'm gonna recommend something very simple from the very beginning. Spend the 5 DDO points to get a bottle of Sully's grog and take over to someone to get your free Sybaris spirit cake, which allows you to raise yourself if you happen to die in a quest. That's kind of the introduction to most new players on how to use the DDO store. And that is in the after you've done Collaborator, I think you have access to it. After you've done the Collaborator in Korthos Island, that would be something that's very simple to do. So that would be like the first thing that I would start with.
Yeah, so that is a NPC. He's right there in the tavern in Korthos. He's right when you walk in, you can see him. If you just walk straight, if you're facing the bartender, he's to your left. But yeah, it's just a real simple quest. It's the intro in the game to show you how to use the store. So it's, by then you'll have 25 DDO points that you'll have earned from favor. So you can spend 5 of those to get a free spirit cake, which lets you self-res. It's a one-time use, but it lets you self-res somewhere. So you can use it as a get-out-of-jail-free card in the future. You can keep it in your inventory. And if you die at the end of a quest and you want to raise yourself, you can.
For every 100 total favor in game, you get 25 DDO points.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
I would recommend if you don't have content, your number one priority is to buy more content, because you can then run this content and gain more favor, and the whole system will start going faster. More content you have, the more you can run, gain more favor, buy more content, and it goes faster and faster. You have to grind a very small amount of content. It's very tedious. So I would start with getting content as your number one priority. And after that, if content is not an issue, get yourself the shared account for removing items, just the basic ones, just so you can pass items from one character to another. Because a lot of times people have multiple characters, and you might pull an item and it's bound to a count, and just having the option to pass it over is very, very valuable. I wouldn't buy enough storage that you can start storing all of your items over there, but to be able to pass bound to account items from character to character is, I think, the best investment after content.
Yeah, and that's a really good one. Even if you only want to play one character, having access to the shared account bank lets you can create additional characters even to just use for storage, which is very common in DDO. With the community calls them mules, but you can make some mule characters to hold more inventory if you want to. It's a good way to kind of bypass the inventory restrictions, which you do have especially as a free to play player at low levels.
Yeah, that single unlock of the shared account will effectively unlock a whole bunch of bank space on other characters that you can just use to pass. So it might look expensive to buy it, and if you're just going to store things in that shared account, but if you can use it to pass to other characters, you'll be unlocking just a new characters out of the gate. Starts with 60 inventory slots plus another 20 bank slots, and you can expand those things to 160. So just just by having the option to pass loot from one character to another, so it's a huge upgrade to your entire account, entire gameplay experience.
Okay, well, is there anything else in the store that you all want to mention? But yeah, I think those are some of the main things, but content is probably what you're going to look out for the most.
I'm just going to mention long-term value, monster manuals. They're a little bit more expensive, but in the long term, the monster manuals, especially the early ones, will give you DDO points. And then some of the little bit later ones will give you astral shards once you've completed certain things on the monster manuals. And it's the gift that keeps on giving, because for your character, when you reincarnate, which we're going to get to in a second, your monster manual resets in terms of your character, so you continue to gain extra experience when you hit certain levels of when you slay monsters or when you discover monsters with specific names, things like that. So a little bit later on, it's not an immediate purchase, but the first one you do get for free. That's available to everybody. But the subsequent ones you have to pay for, and I have found those to be one of the best values in terms of the game for me.
All right, well, let's move on to reincarnation. So, for new players listening, reincarnation is a big part of DDO, and this is nothing you're going to encounter immediately. So, it doesn't come into play until level 20. But it's important to explain and talk about because it's just such a huge part of the game. So, reincarnation means when you get to a certain level threshold, you can choose, if you want to, you don't have to, if you want to, you can choose to go back from, in the case of what we're going to go over, it's the main type of reincarnation, which is heroic true reincarnation is what it's called. You can choose, if you want to go from level 20 all the way back to level 1 in exchange for some permanent character power. You also get, in addition to basically the form of the character power you get is in two forms. You get a certain class feat, which is based on whatever class you leveled as, and they vary. Like the paladin, for example, is extra healing amp, but you get that plus you get extra build points. So when you start out with character creation as a new player, you'll start out with what's called a 28-point build, because you have 28 build points to use on your stats, strength, charisma, dexterity, etc., etc. But if you reincarnate one time, you get 34 instead of 28. So that's additional 6 build points. So that plus your past life feat, it's a lot of extra power. In addition to that, you can now, on your second life, you can unlock hard immediately. You're no longer stuck to normal. And if you do this process again, get to 20 and go back to 1 again, you can then unlock elite for your first time through without having to have run the previous difficulties. So there's some big perks to reincarnating. And I guess to go over real quickly, I want to focus on heroic true reincarnation, but there's a few other types. There's what's called iconic reincarnation, where you have to be on an iconic class, which we're not, iconic character, which we're not going to get into that, but you can go from 30 to 15. There's epic reincarnation, where if you get to level 30, you can do epic reincarnation to go from level 30 to level 20. And then there's racial reincarnation, where you go from level 20 to level 1. But these are all different types of things you can get into. But I think as a new player, your first thing you'll encounter is heroic reincarnation. So what do you all think regarding, let's say the new player gets to level 20. What do you all think about reincarnating versus, say, moving on to level cap? And would you recommend they TR or just continue on to play the end game?
I, on my channel, have always recommended that every new player should plan a 2-character system. So you take your first character and you go all the way to the top, and then you create a second character. Now here's where you're going to have your 2 choices, because you want to always have one character on top. So what you can do is have that one character you took first, and that's come your farming character, that anything you need for your second character, you can just get with your first character on anything. And then the second character is the one you take from 1 to 20 or 1 to 30, and you build your TR. Or you can alternate them. So you take 1 to 20 or 1 to 30, and then you take the other one to 1 to 20 or 1 to 30, and then you TR them, and then they go back up, and then you do the other. Either way, no matter what, you have a character that has access to everything that you're going to need for one character or the other. I currently, for current recommended thing for new players, I would recommend just taking one to the top, and that being your, hey, run one whatever you need, and then concentrate on your second character doing that getting on that TR train.
Major issue that happens a lot is it's kind of like looking for your glasses without the glasses. Life isn't fair. So a lot of times, getting certain gear, you need to have a character at level, above level, or to be able to easily do it. Basically, if I already had the gear, it would be easy to farm the gear. But if I don't have it, it's hard. So that's the value of having a second character all the way at the top who's overpowered for farming the lower level gear. They'll make the whole process much faster. But if you only had one character, I would say when you get to 20, see how much momentum you have. If things are going smoothly and you're just leveling up, you feel strong and tons of power, just go through until you get to the cap. And then you can do something called an epic TR and then an heroic TR. If you feel like you basically barely got past the line when you got to level 20, you're like, okay, I want to take a break or something. Maybe just start over at level 1 and give yourself a new fresh start. Or make the same character but without all the mistakes. Add all the new knowledge you've just accumulated by leveling up, and you'll have a much better time leveling back up. So I would say depend on if you have one character, I would say go with your momentum, how it's feeling. If you barely made it past the line, go back to level 1, and if you're doing strong, so keep on going.
It also depends on if you've bought any other further content, because once you get to level 20, especially going into the epics, there's not a lot of free to play content. So I would say personally, I think for a pure first time player, I would say when you get to 20, you should reincarnate, because there's just so many benefits and you can earn more DDO points again to earn more content. So if you reincarnate, it wipes your slate clean for anyone listening. So you can re-earn all your points again, and that adds on to points you previously earned. So you can earn more points by just playing the content again from 1 to 20. But if you want to go all the way to 34, which is the current level cap as of the time of this recording, you can. You just probably want to buy at least maybe an expansion just to get you to cap and to experience. Because a lot of the main two reasons people would go to level cap and stay there is to run stuff on Reaper to earn Reaper experience points, or to run raids, or also to farm out gear if that's what you want to do. But those are kind of the main things you want to do. So it's up to you whether you want to go back to one or continue on. But if you want to stick to the free to play route, I would say definitely go back and do a reincarnation. And the one thing I want to mention is Duncan brought up in chat. So if you want to do a heroic true reincarnation to go from 20 to 1, you have to have a Heart of Wood. And to get that Heart of Wood, you can earn it for free in game, but you do have to run some quests. So you have to run quests and earn what are called tokens of the 12. You need 20 of them to turn in for a heart. You can optionally just buy a heart for real money in the DDO store. So it's kind of there's a time versus money mechanic, but there are certain quests, and they're all Eberron quests you can run. There are some free to play ones, which is the main free to play ones, and I think the only free to play ones, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, that you can earn tokens is the Lords of Dust chain. So that would be Lords of Dust, Servants of the Overlord, and the Spinner of Shadows. So you'll want to run those, every day. So you can get, just by doing those 3 quests, you'll get 3 tokens. And if you have other people that group with you, they can also pass you their tokens. So you can earn them actually really fast to get to your 20 if you have some people who are willing to group with you and pass you tokens. But if not, it will take 20 quests for you to get your 20 tokens, essentially. If you have more content, there's a bunch of other content that also drops tokens. But if you are free to play, I believe those are the only 3 quests that drop tokens.
To add to that, the changes they made to the reincarnation system as far as the XP goes means really there's no real XP cost to getting to your third life, and that's a game changer. There's no reason for you really not, especially if you aren't running with somebody, or you're finding it hard to farm, or like they said, you just cross the line. There's no penalty to doing so. Get that in, get those past lives in, get that power in, and then when you start, when you go through 4 through 6, it's a little harder, but not that much harder, and everything's open to you. It's really a quality of life game changer that they have done.
Yeah,
So,
Waisaka. I'm sorry, just let me butt in
oh
real
yeah.
quick. Waisaka, you brought up a good point that I think if you don't run the Lords of Dusk quests on Elite, I think you don't get a full token, so you might have to actually, depending on difficulty, run a little bit more if you're soloing. But just if you're trying to get tokens, do all the best you can to group up if possible.
So this goes back to kind of what we've been talking about the whole time, right? If you're free to play, invest, DDO points that you earn into content. Some of the content that does give you tokens include things like Red Fens. It includes things like Vault of Night, and some of those, I think some of the Vault of Night quests will give you 2 tokens for the quest, right? So investing in those adventure packs earlier will give you more content to be able to get the tokens, right? So that's why we kind of emphasize do some of that reinvestment into adventure packs when you do get DDO points, because it'll help you get the tokens easier. If you're going to go all the way to 34, I think one of a good investment, if we're talking about content, would be to get the expansion Trove, which gives you Menace of the Underdark, Shadowfell Conspiracy, and Ravenloft. Shadowfell, or the first one, Menace of the Underdark, is going to give you level 20 to 24 quests in that range. Menace of the Underdark or Shadowfell Conspiracy will be like, a little bit higher. And then Ravenloft gives you stuff into Legendary. And that content will get you to level 34. And that will help you also make sure that you can get heart seeds, which are the other thing that you need if you're going to be doing an epic reincarnation, which we talked a little bit about. So just some of those things, just a kind of a pathway if you kind of are going to go that direction of 1 to 34. It's going to be really difficult as pure free to play. You really need to invest in some other content to make it really work and make it worth your while.
And this is definitely a topic we could do a whole podcast on, is reincarnation easily. We could probably do multiple podcasts on it. But yeah, there's the different types, like he was mentioning, heart seeds or combinations of valor you can use, which is the ingredient you need to earn hearts for iconic true for epic reincarnation, I meant to say. So there's a lot more to it. So if it's, even if you want to go to cap, if you want to kind of bridge the gap here and you don't want to go all the way back to 1, you could go to cap and then do an epic reincarnation and you would only go back to 20 and you could replay epics. So that's another thing you can do. I think epic reincarnation is also really good for a new player because there's a lot of benefits right up front. I think the 3 epic reincarnations for the double strike past life, you can get 9% double strike just for 3 epic reincarnations. That's like a huge DPS boost for so many builds. But honestly, you probably want to we're probably jumping the boat here for a new player. You probably just want to do your 20 to 1 is going to be the most realistic. Is there anything else you guys want to add onto reincarnation before we move on?
Yeah, one thing that's kind of ties back to before. If you do get on the reincarnation train, you start doing it a lot, you must buy yourself a experience tome in the DDO store. And they'll permanently increase how much experience you gain every time. So like the first few lives, it might not be a big difference, but if you're gonna run now 20 past lives to keep on, doing the cycle again and again and again, that bonus to experience is, you must invest in it, or it's a very big time saver. So yeah, the one thing, this kind of ties back to the things you must buy from the DDO store. But this is only if you're if you get on the TR train. So that's what we're mentioning it now.
All right. Well, the last thing I have here is some of the essential resources I think players should check out. And before I'm going through this, if anyone in Twitch chat wants to post questions, we'll have a open Q&A on any topic. It doesn't have to just be for new players, but anything. But essential resources. So I think the first main thing you need to be aware of as a new player is the DDO wiki. So ddowiki.com. It's basically DDO's default manual. It is so important, and you'll be referencing it constantly. Just such a good resource. I can't applaud the people that work hard on that enough, because it is just an invaluable part of this game being, as huge and as complex as it can be. Just the DDO wiki is your friend. Maps for every quest, explanations of where to go to get quests, breakdowns of all the enhancements and classes, and explains everything you could ever want explained for DDO is in there. So definitely DDO wiki, number one resource, hands down. The next thing I want to point out is we talked a little bit about before, but DDO has an official Discord, which is super helpful. Discord is a big part of DDO now in 2025 for sure. Most guilds use Discord. Not all of them. Some players still use the in-game voice chat, but a lot of people use Discord as the default social hub for DDO. So if you don't have Discord, I would recommend you download it to your PC and go to the official Discord. And a lot of guilds have their own Discords, or groups have their own Discords. So getting involved in Discord is just a great way to connect with people, the best way than trying to rely on the communications in DDO itself. But Discord, super helpful. YouTube, I have to say YouTube, my videos, other content creators' videos, Aldbar, here he has a guide on, he does guides on every quest, just tutorials. So if you want to know how to get through a quest, Aldbar's videos are great. He probably has a video on it if you're stuck on a quest. So YouTube, builds, we already mentioned, but lots of stuff on YouTube. DDO.com forums we mentioned, but there was a forum there that's useful. DDO Reddit's good one too. Standing Stone Games, which is the company that runs DDO and Lotro. You can follow them on social media, so Facebook, Twitter, X. I think they're on Blue Sky now as of this week. So whatever social media platform you use, you can probably follow them on there for official updates. And they even have, in their Discord, they even have a feed option where you can actually, if you have your own Discord, you can have their feed go into your own Discord. So you can get news updates as a whole news feed. So so those are really the main ones. Is there any other resources you all want to mention that I haven't gone over?
You mentioned it before, but Matrim's build planner. You brought it up already, but should re-mention it, because sometimes other players will offer you help and they'll say, I'll just send you a build plan. And basically it'll be a tiny little file that if you have the builder, you can just upload it and you'll see it right away, and you'll have the whole build laid out in front of you, and you can make your own tweaks on it and see that it actually works rather than breaking the build. And then you can go play it in game without getting lost. So I've helped out other players before using it, and it's very easy to get a hold of. So definitely make sure you got it in the show notes.
Yep, Matrims is wonderful. Okay, anything else that you guys want to mention?
I want to say DDO Compendium, just because if you, for some reason, don't want to use the DDO Wiki, there is another option.
Compendium, yeah. JB Metric says, when you were a new player, I struggled with understanding what abilities to improve first. Yeah, if you need help understanding, the DDO Wiki is so great for that. If you don't know what, say, PRR and MRR mean, just go to the DDO Wiki. It's good explanations, and YouTube as well. There's a lot of stuff that's covered there. But there are so many. I mean, we could go for hours and hours and hours. I mean, there's so much we could cover. I don't really want to get into exactly what all those things are in this podcast. There's just so much stuff we get into. I mean, we've already gone 2.5 hours here. So, but there are YouTube and resources out there. If you don't know what something is in game, you can go and definitely find it on the wiki or somewhere else.
I would also like to add that every weekend on DDO stream, I do Bard Life, and it's always been a very, very casual stream. And most of the streamers on DDO stream do it this way. And if you have a question, if I know it, or presumably any of the other streamers know it, feel free to ask and we'll tell you.
Yeah, how did I not mention Twitch as a resource?
Mm.
Yeah. Who uses Twitch? I mean, come on.
I don't know, weirdos.
Yeah, Twitch, I stream all the time. A lot of people, Druid's Fire. A lot of people here, well, almost everyone here actually streams who's in this podcast right now. I mean, there's Voodoo has a good stream that he starts, I think 9 a.m. or so Eastern time every weekday morning. There's a lot of streamers. If you go to Dungeons and Dragons online section of Twitch, you'll find someone streaming. And some people stream, I know Albar streams on YouTube as well. So some people stream on YouTube, or some people, I don't know if they still are streaming on Kick as well, if you don't use Twitch.
And it should be noted that the DDO Community Manager Cordovan streams Fridays at 4 Eastern U.S. time. So if you want to ask a question of somebody at Standing Stone Games and hopefully get a good answer, ask Cordovan. And if he doesn't know, he'll try to find the answer for you.
Yeah, and you can even private message him on Discord or on the DDO.com forums, and he's, from my experience, good about getting back to you.
If I had to ask a question about how to play a cleric, I'd ask Cordovan.
Yep. If you want to ask him who the best level 30 hireling is, don't ask Cordovan, because he'll say the cleric hireling, and he's absolutely wrong. But that's fine.
It's still 10 piece.
Mm-hmm. Alvarez is the best, is the favorite.
And a lot of us stream at different times. Like I stream, which would be considered late night on the U.S. mainland, right? Because I'm all the way out in Hawaii. So there's plenty of people who are on at specific times that you can ask questions. You can ask me questions. I will pretend to know the answer, or I will ask chat usually if I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I stream at like either very late night or early morning, depending on your point of view of 4 a.m. because my time zone's different. So yeah, usually I'm kind of on a dead zone when nobody else is streaming. And yeah, I stream on Twitch and YouTube at the same time, so you can pick your preferred platform.
Yeah, and like I said in chat, please guys, if you're watching on Twitch, please type in some questions for anything for the panel. And I'm going over chat for questions. Lom asked a little while ago, what would you run instead of Sands at that level range? So what is Sands? Level 10? I think 11?
11.
11. So what would you guys run other than Sands in that level range? What do you run? What, Ravenloft probably? Is a good one?
Yeah, probably Ravenloft. I still run Sands, but Ravenloft would be the other one.
I guess in terms of free to play, what is free to play in that area range, since we're going over new player stuff?
Ataraxia.
Ataraxia is a really good one. I like those quests a lot. Reclamation's a fun quest. So is Skyros Jewel. They're both good quests.
Ataraxia. At level 12, you have Temple of the Sovereign Host.
Vaughn, Voltanite is a good one. Of course, these are all... those are paid. Yeah, free to play.
Yeah, free to play.
Church and the Cult, I think, is level 10 in House...
9.
Is it 9? Okay. So that's a level 9 quest in House Felarian, which is actually, unfortunately, the only... It's a weird outlier. Church and the Cult is actually the only free-to-play level 9 quest. I don't know why that is, but it is. Last I checked. But there's a lot of good free-to-play, like level 8, level 7. If you have Isle of Dread, I think Isle of Dread's level 7 heroic. You can run that.
The first in Restless Isles is free to play, Hiding in Plain Sight.
Oh yeah, yep. And then is Lord's March around that level range, or am I getting
Lord's
there?
March is 12.
Yeah, it's not
12.
12. Oh, still that's something you could run.
The first three are.
Yeah, the first three.
Yeah, and I guess I should cover for new players. So generally, if you want to know when to run a quest, generally you want to run, if you want to run them optimally, quote unquote, you want to be 2 levels above the level. So if your character level is 12, you want to try to run level 10 quests, because once you get past 2 levels above, you don't get your well, it's not bravery bonus anymore. What's the new name for it? Your delving bonus, right? Thank you. Took my brain a second there. But you get your delving bonus, but you don't get it after level 2. Although if you're running stuff on normal, it doesn't matter because you're not going to get a delving bonus anyway. But that's generally, you want to be no more than like 2 levels above the level you're running. But don't be afraid to run stuff. If you're 12 and you want to run a 9, it's fine. If you're a level 12 and you want to run a level 12 quest, that's fine too. You can always drop the difficulty. It's never a problem. So even like just the other day, I was level 20. I ran a level 35 quest and I just ran it on normal. It's fine. Like, you can run stuff on lower difficulties levels to compensate if your character is under level. Or the alternate is true as well. If you're running, say, 4 or 5 levels over, you could even run it on Reaper, if you want a little more of a challenge. Reaper, you can be no more than what I think 6 in epic and 4 in heroic to run it on Reaper, something like that. I think that's correct. No more than 4 over. Let's see. Oh, Waisakai asks, what is everyone's favorite color? Huh. Anyone want to chime in?
I'll say purple. That's just for him, but it is the truth also.
I don't know. I guess green for me. It was my high school's color. We were green and white.
I like red, but I look better in blue.
Yeah.
Druid fire, because blue fire is best fire.
Orange. Definitely orange.
Okay.
You're gonna rank it as number 1.
Is original Godspeed? What's up, Godspeed? Asks, is Vecna the most recent DLC for DDO? No, the most recent. If you're asking about expansions, the most recent is Mithranor, but that is changing. So there's going to be a Lamortia expansion later this year. We don't have a date yet for it, but Lamortia is going to be coming this year. Let's see. What is the best hireling? I gotta go with Byron Scout Sword. Level 1, he just destroys Skorthos for you. He will just like, even if you're on elite, you can just set him to offense. He's like the one exception of offensive hirelings that are amazing. There's also, I'd also say the D-Door hireling, Makar the Pious.
Mikhail the Pious.
Yeah, he's
level 11, saved me in hardcore in 1 year.
Yeah, he's a level 11. He casts D-Door. For anyone listening who don't know what D-Door is, it's Dimension Door, and if you cast Dimension Door, it will teleport your character back to the very start of the quest, and that's really useful for a lot of quests, to help eliminate some backtracking, to get through the quest faster or to exit faster instead of waiting for your finish out bar to fill up. So when you're done with the quest, you hit finish out, you wait for the bar to fill up. You can just cast a D-Door, go back, and then you can go through the entrance without having to wait as long on a loading bar.
The level 3 Forenzi, you can buy him in the harbor.
Oh,
he's
yeah,
also a barbarian level 3. He's like the step up. I have to mention him also. Honorable mention.
Level 3 Illyri. She can save your bacon sometimes.
Yeah, and go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, the thing to remember about Mikhail is he's a fighter. And for lore, for those of you who don't know the lore, there are the house marks in DDO. And those house marks give you special abilities. And I believe it is it's the human house mark. I can't remember what it is.
Probably.
Yeah, and so it gives you the ability to cast Dimension Door. And so that is why he is able to do it, even though he is a fighter.
I do like Ronali part from the Mithranor expansion because she can regenerate. She's a healer. She doesn't actually run into combat because she's a ranged hireling. Most of the hirelings are not ranged. I would also, in the level 30 cleric versus Favor Soul fight between Bulwark, the cleric, and Alvarez, the favored soul, unless you need divine vitality to regain spell points as a caster character. Alvarez hands down every time because he has mass death ward, which will help you against negative levels and other shenanigans like that. And he's tougher, and he doesn't get himself killed. And Cordovan is wrong. Alvarez is better.
Well, let's talk about Mass Death Ward. At level 14, the first guy you get that is a cleric, 10-piece Lorben. And 10-piece is actually, from my opinion, a better cleric hireling than the 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, all of them. I run 10-piece Lorben when I get to 14. I run him to 20 when I can get Albus. 10-piece, he even looks like Vin Diesel. That's how tough he is.
And that's something I should have mentioned earlier. Actually, you brought up Death Ward. In terms of gearing, by the time you're level 8, 9, 10 ish, everyone, if you should be wearing Death Block. You can also get it through an augment, but Death Block is so essential because some enemies will cast insta death spells on you that if you fail we're not going to get into saves and all that, but if you fail your save, you can die instantly, or if you roll a 1. So making a spells like Finger of Death. But if you have Death Block, you'll be prevented from dying, and then Death Ward can prevent you from other things like negative levels, some more nastier stuff. So those are some essential. Death Block is really easy to get. It's uncommon, common loot, but Death Ward's a little harder to get. You can cast it through a spell if you're, say, a divine class like Paladin or Cleric, but otherwise you have to get it typically through a clicky. We mentioned some, like there's one in Tangleroot, there's one in Saltmarsh. I guess getting back to hirelings, I want to mention Froggo we mentioned Saltmarsh is a good buy for a new player, but if you can buy one of I think it's the middle or the top tier bundle for it, you can get Froggo as a level 3 hireling who's a rogue, and he can do traps for you. So really from 3 all the way up to, if you buff him, if you have some buffs to apply to increase his skills, so like greater heroism and such, he can do traps all the way up into even up to double digit levels. So he's super, super helpful, and he looks really cool. He's like the coolest looking hireling. He hops around. He's got a little hat. He has a nice little dance. I like him. He's probably my favorite hireling.
I was going to say, if you're looking for someone who's going to wreck stuff and blow through spell points like your ex-girlfriend blew through money, Lara Faye in level 15, Favored Soul. I still consider her to be like a crazy ex. You know, she loves you to death. She'll do everything she can to protect you, and she will blow anything up to make sure that you don't get hurt. But man, she's going to blow through spell points like nobody's business.
Cannith as well.
I just remember, I want to mention one thing. We didn't really talk about traps. I just want to mention briefly that a lot of players will run into traps, especially low levels. And traps in DDO are probably important to cover because they can kill you. Depending on higher difficulties, they can just kill you instantly. But all traps, the vast majority of traps in DDO, they are made so you can get around them, either with just quickly moving between them with good timing, or jumping around them, or just going around an alternate path. But having someone who can do traps is really useful. It's not essential though. It's not I guess that's not the right word. It's not required. If you're not a trapping class, it's a bit of an inconvenience, but you can generally get around traps. And if you run on low difficulties like normal, they're generally not going to do enough damage to be threatening. It's really, from my experience, really with a couple outliers like Three Barrel Cove, generally just if you're not running elite or higher, probably not going to do enough to really threaten you. But it does vary by content. Is there anything you guys want to say on traps?
Sensitive to knowledge. If you know where the trap is, it's totally different. I mean, if you're running things the first time on normal, so you'll be surprised by the trap, but probably you won't die to it. If you're running things for the first time on elite and you have no clue there's a trap coming up, there's a very good chance you're going to die. You might just panic or get stuck in the trap and take too much damage too fast and die. But once you start once you start playing the content a little bit, you'll start to expect traps in certain places, and you can either jump over them, get around them. There's a lot of ways to get past traps, so you don't have to play a trapper class to get past them. But knowledge is
can help you find where they are.
Yeah, the wiki has maps for all the quests, and on the map they'll be marked out all the different locations where there's a trap, and where the trap box is if you want to disable it if you can.
Yeah, and like Troggy just mentioned, you can slot a tower shield, and it actually helps reduce damage when you're going through traps.
Okay, I'm going through chat. If there's any other questions, guys, let me know now. I think we're going to wrap up here soon.
Can I mention one last thing?
Yeah.
This is something that Waisakai mentioned earlier. Waisakai mentioned making sure that you grab your tomes when when you hit a certain favor level. So just wanted to reemphasize, always check your mail. Check your mail. You'll get announcements in there saying you've reached a certain favor level. Go talk to this person. Forget what his name is. He's the drow in the harbor that gives you some of your account bonuses, like unlocks veteran status or unlocks a +2 tome, unlocks some other things as you go along. So you always want to make sure that you're checking your mail, getting your information, go and talk to that person and pick up those bonuses that you're getting simply from playing the game, right? Doesn't cost you anything. You just talk to them and then they'll give you these bonuses to stats, bonuses to hit points, tomes, unlock certain things in the game. And it's a great way to, unlock content that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise unless you paid for it.
Yeah, I should point out the tomes, stat tomes, or skill tomes, they're permanent for that specific character. And even if you reincarnate, you maintain that permanent increase. So if you keep on running up to, I don't know, 1750 favor and you get your +2 stat tome, if you reincarnate, you can pick a different tome this time. And every time you can pick, you got to add to different stats. I mean, if you have enough favor, you can all the way to 5,000 and then 7,500. You can increase your stat tomes even more.
Troggy asked the important questions. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no? I'm very pro
Yes.
I'm very pro pineapple on pizza. Obviously, Nomad's from Hawaii, so of course he is. But no, I love pineapple on pizza. I like pineapple and ham and pineapple and onions, really tasty.
I love it, but I won't force anybody with me to eat it.
I've never tried it, so I'm neutral on my opinion. If you enjoy it, good for you.
Try
I
it.
might enjoy it. I never tried it.
Try it and see what you think.
Okay, guys. Well, is there anything else you all? I mean, we're about to end here. Is there anything else you all want to mention? Anything that we've covered today or didn't cover before we close out the podcast?
Is this the longest podcast you've done so far?
No, actually, Myth Drenor podcast I think was 3 hours, so we're close, but no, we'll be just short here. I think.
Just my luck.
Yeah. I want to mention that Albar and I did a podcast all about tips for soloing. I can't remember what episode number of Axelcast it was, but it was one of the earlier episodes. It was like 5 or 6 or something. But if you want more info on soloing, we did a whole podcast breaking that down. Oh, we actually have a question here. Grindel says, "What are your thoughts on the new loot using lunar and solar gems with no set bonus?" I like it. I mean, it's a good. In theory, it's good because it provides you more flexibility versus the standard set bonuses. It's just the whole thing is I think with the community is the drop rates where, because basically the other thing with it, say you have something like a 3-piece Sharn set, you have half the grind time versus the lunar and solar gems, because with the lunar and solar gems you have to grind out not just the base item but also the augments you want, so it does kind of double the grind time. So that's the con of it. The pro of it is you get more flexibility. So I like it. I just wish I think some of the ones that are quote unquote rare, part of the rare system, should not be rare. So I mean, but loot drop rates aside, I think it's a really good system. I like it a lot, and they're continuing it with new content going forward.
With all the new content, I mean, Fall of the Night Brigade, the new Tavern Tales quests, it's dropping the sun and moon augments in those, right? So you're getting more options to get the augments than what we had with just Myth Drenor. So I do like the new system. I think it does add a lot more flexibility. It makes the gear Tetris easier, which I'm all for. And so I like that aspect, but I agree. I think the drop rates when Myth Drenor came out was atrocious. It got a little bit better, but still isn't where we need everything to be.
Yeah, I think the system's awesome. I just think the drop rates in Myth Drenor specifically are terrible. But as we get newer content, and there's other ways to get the same gear. Because remember, one of the things of getting gear is gear per minute. If you've got a very, very long quest, takes you 40 minutes, and you have one end chest, and then you get Fall of the Night Brigade, where I can run it in 5 minutes and get to an end chest. So one of these has better gear per minute. So yeah, I think the newer content is kind of rectifying the low drop rates that they came out with Bitanor, and you get to actually enjoy the system. And I think the system is very good, especially when it comes to building up the gear Tetris. I can make sets that I wouldn't imagine before because I can fill up like every slot. There's so many sets of profane and artifact, every type of thing all slotted together, and you can make it all work because you've got more options now.
I guess I'll dissent here a little bit. For me, the whole thing is that since I don't get to do a lot of top 10, top R10, whatever rating, elite rating stuff, my gear sets are geared toward generality because I play a lot of alts. And so my opinion, at least on getting all this gear, it's I'll get it when I get it. I I just run the content, and if I happen to get something wowie zowie, and eventually I can build it into a gear set, that's fine. But I'm not one of these people who go out and chase the newest and best gear Tetris stuff.
All right, guys. I think unless you all have anything else you want to add, I think we'll go ahead and close out the podcast. I guess we'll go around if you all want to plug your stuff and let people know where they can find you streaming or making YouTube videos or other content. Alvar, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. And my name is Albar or Albar DDO, Twitch and on YouTube. I primarily started off with making YouTube videos. Solo Walkthrough and Guide was my big show for many years, and I do now Let's Plays and a lot of solo raids. And basically, every quest in DDO, I've showed how to solo, and I've soloed most of the raids already and made videos. So if you want to solo things, I have a video covering it probably. That's primarily, and I've been doing streaming more on Mondays and Wednesdays primarily. Those are the main days where I stream. So if you want to come check out the things, Aldbar DDO on Twitch and on YouTube.
Druid's Fire.
I'm Druidsfire. You can find me twitch.tv/Druidsfire, youtube.com/Druidsfire. I stream on DDO Stream Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern US time. I also stream on Launcher Stream on Fridays, either right after Court Open Show or right after my professor who streams after Court Open Show. Pick one. That depends on if Corey is away or not. And I am a filthy casual, proud to be so, and I don't do a lot of raids unless I get invited to go raid with somebody. Primarily on Orion, but lately on Vormir. So good times. So yeah, come find me. I won't know the answer to your question. I'll refer you to somebody like Axel or Redo or any of these fine gentlemen. Yep.
Okay, Doug.
I'm Doug Lindauer. You can find me here in about, what, hour and a half, 2 hours on DDO Stream, where I stream for the last 7+ years doing Bard Life. I also stream on my own channel. That's twitch.tv/Doug Lindauer, all one word, where I've been doing it every morning, Tuesday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time. And I just would like to remind everybody that we'd love to have you, so please stop by.
And Nomad.
All right. Nomad Dog. You can catch me on my streams Wednesdays and Friday nights, 6:30 p.m. Hawaii time, 9:30 Pacific at 12:30 a.m. Eastern. And then again, DDO stream on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern, where we take a look at the quests that came out since the game went free to play in 2009. We're getting towards the end. I'm like in the 60s now for updates. So once I hit the end, I'm going to have to go back and start looking at stuff before the game went free to play, which will be interesting. But I am a fairly casual player. Have been dipping my toe more and more into higher level Reapers, which has been interesting, especially with some of my older builds that are woefully undergeared. But it's been an experience. But my main character's on that TR grind, and I'm finally starting racial reincarnations after 15 years of having this character. So, and then I also have YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/nomaddoggaming, and I post on there very infrequently.
And for anyone listening, if you want to listen to prior episodes, you can find all episodes of this podcast on Axel's DDO channel on YouTube or on Spotify. Just search for Axelcast. The last things I want to say is, and I'll put links below in the YouTube description and in the Spotify description to all the guests' stuff, so their YouTubes and Twitches and all that. Last thing I want to say thank you to Patreon supporters, Brent Erickson, Brian Rasmussen, and Vaclav Snyder. Thank you all for your support. If you all are interested in supporting this podcast or any other videos I do, you can find links to my Patreon below in the description on my my link tree, along with all my other stuff like Discord and social media and Twitch and all that. All right, guys. Thank you all for showing up. If you're a new player, hope you learned something. We will see you all on the next podcast. Take care.